Hi, welcome to my channel. The full version of the audiobook is available on my Patreon. You can quickly find it through the link in my profile description. Thank you for your support.
Chapter 1 Real Madrid's Youth Academy, single-mindedly aiming to loan out. July 30, 2010. After another preseason training session, Mourinho sat in his office at the Valdebebas training ground, holding a player information sheet and agonizing over something. He has an excellent sense of positioning, possesses a natural talent for defensive positioning, and is outstanding in covering for defenders. However, he is not aggressive in coming out of his goal, prefers to pressure attacking players dribbling space, and is strong in physical duels. They possess stable ball control and passing abilities, but lack creativity, have a weak willingness to make forward runs, and are inadequate in dribbling. He is a defensive midfielder worth developing. He has excellent positioning, is proactive in defense, and has excellent stamina, but his playmaking ability is relatively weak, and his attacking desire is not strong. His technique is solid, and it is worth mentioning that his heading ability is quite outstanding. He may play a good role in set-piece tactics in the future. After reviewing the summary report submitted by his assistant once again, Mourinho's slightly furrowed brows gradually relaxed. After rubbing his temples, he seemed to have made a final decision, and gently put down the player list with a hint of regret. Half an hour later, a young player with the appearance of an East Asian player knocked on the door and, after receiving permission, entered Mourinho's office. "I heard from Mr. Perez that you were looking for me. I was a bit sweaty, so I took a quick shower first. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting." The young Asian player came in and gave a slightly apologetic explanation. His buzz cut, still damp from rinsing, looked surprisingly fresh against his handsome, sunny appearance. Mourinho looked at the young player in front of him, who was clearly not reserved, polite, and cheerful, and waved his hand with a smile, indicating that he should sit down first. Clearly, Mourinho was quite impressed with the young player during the previous preseason training sessions. "We've already talked about this once before, Lee, so I won't waste any more words. I called you here today to discuss your plans for this season." As Mourinho spoke, he tapped the report sheet beside him lightly with his fingers. Meanwhile, the young Eastern player sitting opposite Mourinho straightened up slightly, looking like he was listening attentively. "We've decided to keep Meng Yugua, as you know. The first team already has plenty of midfielders in every position. To ensure your development, we think it's better to loan you out and let you play more games for other teams." Before Mourinho could finish speaking, the young player sitting opposite him looked relieved and asked him a question. "Can I choose my preferred team, boss?" Mourinho smiled knowingly and waved a team roster in his hand at him. "Several teams from the Segunda División and La Liga are interested, and Real Betis is on the list, of course." The young Eastern player was now completely relieved and repeatedly thanked Mourinho. "This young player from the East is named Leon. Don't get me wrong, he's not a French citizen of Chinese descent, nor does he have a foreign name like Leon. He's a legitimate Chinese player. Thanks to his relatives in Madrid, he came to Spain at the age of 13. He then successfully passed the selection process and entered Getafe's youth academy, embarking on his professional youth training path. At the age of 14, due to his outstanding performance in youth team matches, he successfully transferred to the youth academy of Real Madrid, a football powerhouse in the same city. He was promoted to Real Madrid's reserve team Castilla just after turning 18. After playing half a season in the Segunda División B, he was loaned to Real Betis, who were short of defensive midfielders, for another half season in the Segunda División. At 19, he helped Real Betis secure direct promotion to La Liga as the third-place team in the Segunda División before the league's promotion system reform. At such a young age, to have achieved so much. Leon may not be a peerless super genius, but he is certainly worthy of his status as an outstanding youth player from Real Madrid's youth academy. However, unlike other Castilla players, he, who grew up in La Fábrica and is 100% a Real Madrid insider. While others were desperate to stay at Real Madrid and dream of playing for the first team, Leon was single-mindedly focused on leaving. Even though he was singled out by the newly appointed Real Madrid coach Mourinho this summer and has already started preseason training with the first team players, he still hasn't changed his mind. Whether Real Madrid sells him or loans him out, he can accept it. His only request was to be assigned to a team where he could consistently play in matches. Now that Real Betis has been promoted to La Liga, it is naturally the best place for him. He has a head coach who appreciates him, teammates with whom he has already worked together for half a year, and fans who love him. Real Betis is simply the perfect place for him to level up. Mourinho didn't know what to say about Leon. In all his years of coaching, he has rarely seen such a precocious young player as Leon. He was so precocious that he remained unmoved by the allure of Real Madrid's first team. Liang's insistence on being sent out by the club to play matches makes him one of the most unconventional Real Madrid Youth Academy graduates from Castilla. When Mourinho first arrived at Real Madrid, he also began to pay attention to Leon. He really likes this kind of down-to-earth, hard-working, and intelligent young player. Perhaps Leon is ultimately lacking in talent, but under Mourinho, a slightly weaker attacking attribute is not a big problem. Not to mention that Liang's defensive talent is indeed very satisfying to him. If it weren't for the fact that there are so many midfielders in the first team right now, Mourinho wouldn't mind giving Leon a chance to get playing time and experience in Real Madrid's first team in the new season. This was the very thing that had been bothering him. He was optimistic about Liang's talent, but Real Madrid didn't need talent at the moment. Real Madrid, which has been suppressed by Barcelona for a long time, needs immediate combat power and the addition of one superstar after another. Therefore, it's better to let Leon sit on the bench and waste this precious period of improvement. It would be better to let him go and hope that he can seize the opportunity to grow quickly. In that case, perhaps in a year or two, Mourinho will have the opportunity to work with an excellent defensive midfielder who came from Castilla. Keep up the good work. Don't let your diligence and hard work in Valdebebas go to waste. I look forward to seeing an even better Leon in the near future. You're a great guy, keep your focus. Mourinho stood up and, as usual, offered encouragement as he shook hands with Leon. Leon smiled and nodded, thanked him again, and walked briskly out of Mourinho's office. This was a very simple pre-season conversation between the head coach and the players. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, once Real Madrid and Real Betis reach an agreement, Leon will soon be able to pack his bags and return to Seville, where he has spent the last 6 months. This summer's brief training session with Real Madrid's first-team players seems more like a beautiful dream. Besides broadening his horizons, Leon finally got the chance to draw the Golden Star talent fragment card that he had been looking forward to for the past 6 years. 3 years after 3 years, he has been playing in the defensive midfield position for 6 years. It's not that he was born with this talent, or that he likes to play as a defensive midfielder, it's just that he had no other choice. After leaving Valdebebas, Leon brought up the Road to Football King panel in his mind on his way home. On the far left of this simple system panel is a star player talent card that shines with golden light. 08-09 Season Limited Edition Makelele. My new book is out. I hope you all will add it to your collections and recommend it. Let's make a big splash in May. Chapter 2 What does unlucky mean? Leon has always believed in luck. There was no way around it, because he himself was an absolute unlucky person. From childhood to adulthood, he has rarely achieved any lucky results in anything related to luck. Fortunately, although Lady Luck didn't seem to favor him, his life progressed relatively smoothly. My family is healthy, and my dearest friends are all here. After graduating from university, he worked at an e-commerce company for 3 years, eventually becoming a supervisor. 3 years later, he was promoted to regional manager. While not everything was smooth sailing and he achieved early success, by the time he turned 30, he had managed to buy a house and 2 cars through his own hard work, which could be considered a modest achievement in his career. On the night of his 32nd birthday, he declined his colleague's invitation to go to a bar and have fun again, and went home to eagerly turn on his computer. Don't get me wrong, Leon plans to watch a game that night. He was a die-hard fan, so much so that he decisively dumped 2 girlfriends he had just started dating because of it. What a joke. My Champions League season has already started, and you expect me to take you out to see a movie and enjoy the river breeze so late at night? With that time, why didn't you bring 2 cold dishes and 2 beers to watch the game with me? So Leon smoothly returned to his single life after a brief relationship. Tonight happens to be a match between one of his favorite teams, Chelsea. Leon originally wanted to relax by watching a favorite football game after a hard day's work. As a result, Chelsea were suffocated by Southampton with a single goal at their home ground. After entering the second half of the 2022-2023 season, Chelsea not only failed to improve their luck, but also lost a game after 3 consecutive draws. Leong was so angry that he felt dizzy for a moment. Damn it! How many times have I told you, we need a big centre forward and a strong defensive midfielder, but you just wouldn't buy them. You just wouldn't buy them. Giroud left and we brought back a clumsy Lukaku, and if he wasn't good enough, we brought back another clumsy Aubameyang. Now we don't even have a centre forward. I might be able to take a few kicks if I went up there. Leong, who was muttering to himself, walked into the bathroom in a fit of anger, turned on the tap, and soaked his head with water. He used to like doing this when he played in school games. He would wet his face and head during halftime to refresh himself and calm him down quickly. But whether it was because he had been working too much overtime lately or for some other reason, Leong's vision went black as soon as he stood up after being splashed with cold water, and he fell to the ground unconscious. When Leong woke up again, he found himself back in his old house in his hometown in a very strange way. Looking at the calendar on the wall, it was clearly 2004. Before he could figure out what was happening, a panel called "The Road to Becoming a Football King" suddenly appeared in his mind. So I was the chosen one all along. Leong was completely stunned by this surprise. I've transmigrated, been reborn, and even have a system. What else could I be but the chosen one? But when he drew Makelele, a player with an extremely low probability of success, from among the top 20 midfielders and many attacking superstars in the newbie gift pack given by the system. When it came to the so-called limited edition Makelele talent card from the 2008-09 season, representing the twilight of his career, he was completely dumbfounded. What does "unlucky" even mean? I'm the chosen one of hammers. Leong, who was pounding the bed and howling in pain, not only received no psychological comfort, but was also given a good beating by his younger father who came over with 7 wolves cigarettes. Secondly, he wanted to play professional football, but unsurprisingly, he was given a good beating by his father. After 7 days of talking and 5 or 6 meals of bamboo shoots stir-fried with pork, Lee's father finally gave up and Leong got verbal permission to go to Spain to visit his uncle this summer. As a result, this departure lasted for a full 6 years. Although Leong ultimately failed to play the centre-forward position he had always longed for, he still managed to realize his childhood dream. Yes, it's still a dream across 2 lifetimes. He became a professional player and even played half a year in the Segunda División. A brighter future awaits him in La Liga. All of this was enough to satisfy him. Moreover, he has now accumulated 500 points in the system, and can finally unlock the Golden Stars talent fragment card again. Let's not even talk about defying the heavens and creating talents like Ronaldinho's dribbling, Pirlo's free kicks, or Rui Costa's through balls. He'd be content with just a fragment of a top-tier midfielder's talent, as long as it allowed him to continue grinding and improving his stats. The main problem is that he's not satisfied and has no other choice. His luck with card draws is just a so-so, so he doesn't have much hope now. As long as it works, that's fine. Spending 6 years accumulating enough points to draw a gold talent card is the limit of how much luck he can improve. As for the rest, that's up to fate. After returning to his rented apartment, Leong hummed a little tune as he took another shower, and then began to prepare dinner. After spending a monotonous yet comfortable night, Leong sent a text message to his parents saying that he had secured his job for the next season. After reviewing half of the 2009-10 Champions League final, Leong went to bed early at 10 p.m. He plans to return to Seville early tomorrow morning to tidy up his rented room there. Real Betis had been in talks with Real Madrid about the loan deal for a while, and Mourinho spoke with him today, so the contract should be finalized by tomorrow. Even if he has to wait just one more day, he will be able to start joint training with the Real Betis first team the day after tomorrow. The first team players who are still at Real Madrid's Valdebebas training ground will mostly be flying to the United States tomorrow to prepare for preseason friendlies. Therefore, he doesn't need to do extra training by himself anymore. He can just make a polite phone call to the assistant coach and Mr. Mourinho to explain. As for drawing the talent card, he plans to do that when he arrives in Seville tomorrow. If you take another bath and burn incense then, your luck should improve somewhat. With that in mind, Leong slept soundly and didn't wake up naturally until after 9 o'clock the next morning. After packing his few clothes into his suitcase, shouldering his travel bag, and making sure he hadn't left anything in the changing room in Valdebebas, Leong took a taxi straight to Barajas Airport. Listening to music along the way and imagining his successful career at Betis, Leong was in a very good mood. It evokes a similar feeling to the advisor played by Guyu in the opening scene of Let the Bullets Fly, who is rushing to Gu City to take up his new post. But just as Zhang Motzi intercepted Master Tang on the road, Liang's happiness didn't last long before a phone call urgently summoned him back. An hour later, Leong, carrying his suitcase, was once again in Mourinho's office, sitting in the same spot. Yesterday he received Mourinho's blessing and is preparing to make a big splash at Real Betis. He has already made the decision that he may not return for 3 to 5 years, or may never return to Real Madrid. Unexpectedly, just as he was about to arrive at the airport and Mourinho was preparing to pack his things to catch his flight, a sudden change disrupted both of their plans. Ignoring the slightly awkward atmosphere in the office, Leong only had 5 minutes to talk with Mourinho to understand what had happened before he had to pick up his suitcase and leave the office with Mourinho. He still has to catch a flight, but not to Seville, he's going to Los Angeles with Real Madrid's first team. Half an hour later, Real Madrid's official website released a message announcing that first-team defensive midfielder Lassana Diarra would have to miss Real Madrid's U.S. tour due to a thigh muscle strain sustained during yesterday's training session. In the subsequent revised list for the U.S. tour, the name of Leong, a young player from Castilla's youth academy who performed well during his loan spell last year, was surprisingly added. Therefore, among the Real Madrid players who went to the United States this time, a total of 6 were promoted from the reserve team Castilla, which has caused a lot of discussion among Real Madrid fans. Meanwhile, Leong, who had already boarded the plane to the United States, looked at Benzema and Gago waving at him, and Nacho and Morata winking and waving back, and he didn't know what to say. Bad luck? Leong felt very unlucky. The chance to secure a place in La Liga this season is probably gone, and to outsiders, it seems like he got incredibly lucky. But he really doesn't want to stay at Real Madrid and sit on the bench. There's no reasoning with them. But he's unlucky. I'm used to it. Okay, the cover didn't pass the review. I'm so frustrated, I have to make one again. It's so difficult. Chapter 3 This defensive midfielder is unremarkable, please add to your favorites and vote. Upon arriving in Los Angeles, Leong finally received what was perhaps the worst news he could expect. Las Diarra has been confirmed to be out for at least 2 months, and it remains to be seen whether he will be able to make a healthy comeback after 2 months. Therefore, Leong will indeed be unable to report to Real Betis before the start of the new La Liga season. He felt it was a mess, but his old friend Nacho, who shared a room with him, expressed complete envy. Currently, Real Madrid has 5 players who can play as centre-backs. With Carvalho starting, Pepe's position is practically guaranteed. Albiol, the third centre-back, is not currently being used by Mourinho, but he is actually very strong. He's far better than Nacho is now. Ramos will primarily play right-back for now, but if Real Madrid really needs a replacement centre-back, Mourinho will prioritize Ramos over Nacho. Finally, there's Garay, who sits on the bench waiting for his chance, and is more experienced and capable than him. Nacho truly sees no chance of getting many playing opportunities with Real Madrid's first team this season. Perhaps after the pre-season training is over, he will have to return to Castilla as a training partner to continue his campaign in the new season of the Segunda División B. With Lassana Diarra injured, your chances have increased significantly, Little Lion. I heard that Mr. Mourinho doesn't really like Mohamed and Gago. Before Khedira arrived, you and Alonso were basically the only ones who could hold up the defense in midfield. Why don't you try to make a difference? Little Lion was the nickname Leong received shortly after joining Real Madrid's youth team. Because the pronunciation of Lion in Spanish is similar to the pronunciation of Liang's Chinese name, Nacho, who was gradually getting closer to Leong, gave him this nickname. Nacho is now trying to entice Leong to stay with Real Madrid's first team to earn playing time, and he's doing so in a very organized manner. But inside Leong is a mature soul in his 30s, who likes to take a long-term view of things, and naturally won't easily change his well-thought-out decisions. Stop testing me. I still need to find a way to loan out first. If I can't get out in the summer transfer window, I'll try the winter transfer window. What I need is a stable professional environment and enough playing time. But at Real Madrid, Midu, Nacho, this is a playground for superstars and reporters. We don't have room for error. If you play well, that's expected because you're playing for Real Madrid. But if you don't play well, you won't get a second chance. Leong calmly and ruthlessly revealed the future of these so-called young talents at Real Madrid. They either achieve instant fame with an extremely low probability and continue to deliver outstanding performances, living up to the high expectations and scrutiny of the club, fans, and the entire European media. Either face reality as soon as possible, make the most rational plan for your career, and leave Real Madrid to find a more suitable place to grow. There are very few players who can become a regular starter at Real Madrid at such a young age. Raúl's story inspires generations of Real Madrid youth academy players who have successfully entered Real Madrid's third team in Castilla. But the reality is that Real Madrid only has one Raúl. Even someone as powerful as Golden Wolf Guti can only have his spiritual energy and what should have been a brighter future worn away by repeated changes in position and rotation. Leong is grateful to Real Madrid for providing him with better resources and a platform for growth. But he doesn't want to be like Guti, nor is he a Real Madridista like his friend Nacho. Even if he has some kind of cheat code, he still needs to play more games and be given more playing time by the team to have a chance to grow further. TCH, you're still as boring as ever. But I respect your decision, and I believe you can succeed, little lion. I really hope that when I finally make it to the first team, I can still fight alongside you. Nacho chuckled and punched Leong on the shoulder, then suddenly said with a hint of sadness. He met Leong when he was 14 and she was 13. They spent almost 6 years of youth training together, living and training almost side by side. They were promoted to Real Madrid U19 together, joined the third team together, and then joined Castilla together. Aside from his younger brother Alex, Leon is Nacho's best brother and friend. He so desperately wanted to play alongside Leong from the youth team all the way up to Real Madrid's first team. But he knew Leong too well, so much so that he had to become pessimistic about whether his little dream could be realized. Leong has always steadfastly done what he believes is right. Just like Nacho, who was determined from a young age to dedicate his entire career to Real Madrid. Leong is also determined to find the club that best suits his development. This has nothing to do with loyalty, but simply a choice made under different development philosophies. Perhaps, that day will come. What are you muttering about? Looking at Nacho, who looked up with some confusion, Leong pondered for a moment before finally smiling and changing the subject. The training camp for our trip to the US starts tomorrow, so let's do our best. Yeah, you too. Let's give it our all in these last few weeks. Let's cheer each other on. With familiar encouragement, Leong and Nacho smiled at each other, dispelling the slightly dull atmosphere from before, and began chatting easily again. But no matter how much they relaxed afterward. The next day, after arriving at the training ground by bus, they were still taken aback by the enthusiastic fans who came to watch the open training session. The training ground at UCLA, which Real Madrid is renting, is already packed with fans from different countries. Cristiano Ronaldo and Karim Benzema simply waved to the fans outside the car window, which triggered a deafening and frenzied cheer. Leong is probably in a better position, since he officially played professional matches last season. But Nacho really couldn't hold back. Even though he knew these fans weren't there for him, he was still thrilled and proud to be a temporary member of Real Madrid's first team. However, that afternoon, after Nacho experienced the more rigorous training camp personally designed by Mourinho, he quickly lost his enthusiasm. I'm so tired, so damn tired. After the first training session, Nacho felt that his training clothes could be wrung out several kilograms of sweat. Seeing that Leong had completed the training meticulously and did not show any signs of discomfort, Nacho had nothing more to say except to give him a thumbs up. Leong's physical fitness was renowned in Real Madrid's youth academy. Despite his preference for anticipating positioning and making defensive interceptions in advance, he doesn't seem like the type of defensive midfielder who focuses on sweeping attacks. But in every game, he is basically the player who runs the farthest distance in the team. However, Leong's personal statistics are not as outstanding as his physical abilities. Even his best skill, defensive interception, may not be as impressive in terms of statistics as many physically strong defensive midfielders. He has excellent ball control, doesn't like to make forward runs, has good defensive positioning, and is proactive in covering for the ball. But aside from these good defensive qualities, his other on-court skills are rather ordinary. Even many Real Betis fans who have been quite supportive of Liang may still not fully understand his role. Liang's performance for Real Betis last season was actually quite unremarkable. Many times, after watching an entire match, fans only feel that they can see Liang in their own backcourt at any time, but they also feel that Liang's performance is just average, not outstanding, and he doesn't make any big mistakes. He's just an ordinary midfielder who neither makes any significant contributions nor any major mistakes. Choosing positions to intercept and pressuring the opponent's advancing space, aren't those all things a defensive midfielder should be doing? There's not much to say. However, when Real Betis rested Liang for one game during the final promotion stage, the team's midfield and backfield defense and organization of the rhythm went out of control, resulting in a painful 1-3 defeat. Real Betis fans no longer debated whether Liang was important to them. Liang ultimately helped Real Betis secure 8 points with 4 mediocre performances, maintaining their third-place position in the Segunda División and earning them a direct promotion spot to La Liga. His performance in training is also like that now. I followed the coach's instructions meticulously, then practiced short passes within a 5-meter range for an extra half hour, rested, and replenished my nutrients. During the evening closed training session, Liang partnered with both Di Maria and Cristiano Ronaldo in the attacking trio. His performance was as good as ever. Cristiano Ronaldo's assessment of him is the same as that of Real Betis and those fans who used to watch Real Madrid's youth team matches. He was very ordinary, even unremarkable. Cristiano Ronaldo stroked his chin and said this to Benzema and Marcelo. But then, Ronaldo looked at Liang, who was standing on the sidelines taking the time to hydrate, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. But I like it very much. Chapter 4, Valorant's short pass talent fragment. Please add to your favorites, please. Benzema spent a lot of time training with Liang recently, so he's not surprised that Ronaldo would say such a thing now. Because he had a similar opinion of Liang. What may seem like ordinary traits to fans are actually quite valuable to them. Because there are already few young players who can accurately position themselves, and even fewer who can hold their place on the defensive end and are willing to quietly do the dirty work. Star strikers like Cristiano Ronaldo and Karim Benzema are naturally gifted and love to have possession of the ball. Therefore, they would naturally prefer to work hard to defend behind them, not hold on to the ball, and help them regain the offensive rhythm in midfield. As for Liang's poor offensive attributes, they don't care at all. To put it bluntly, Real Madrid has never lacked attacking talent. Look at the bloated midfield in Real Madrid's first team right now. Granero, Canars, Leon, Van der Vaart, and some dead man. His offensive talent is simply overflowing. However, only Xabi Alonso and Las Diera, previously known as Xabi Alonso, can provide stable defensive protection in the defensive midfield position. Gago could be considered half a player, but he had been turned into a hybrid by the previous coaches. Originally a key player in the team's defensive organization, he was forced to switch to playing as a defensive midfielder in order to get playing time. However, his physical condition is not quite up to par, and at least under Mourinho's leadership, Gago is not capable of shouldering the responsibility of protecting Alonso. It's not quite at the point of being abandoned, but it's close. Xabi Alonso can actually do the dirty work himself, but he also has to organize and orchestrate the backcourt. If Brother Long were to continue shouldering these two heavy responsibilities, even an iron body wouldn't be able to handle it. It can only be said that Diarra's sudden injury completely disrupted Mourinho's training plan, and under these circumstances, he dared not let Liang go to Real Betis. Even though Khedira is about to join Real Madrid, seemingly the best choice for Real Madrid's defensive midfield position. But in fact, Khedira is also someone who likes to make forward runs and participate in attacks, which he is known for in the Bundesliga. Mourinho may have high expectations for transforming the German midfield. However, given the current shortage of defensive midfielders and the uncertainty surrounding the team's key defensive players' ability to return in 2 months, the team is facing a difficult situation. If he doesn't trust Gago, then he can only trust Liang, who has a better impression of him. I like this kid. You guys have to beat around the bush when you talk, but I'm different. I like playing midfield with someone like this. Marcelo touched his half-length, fluffy hair, then jogged briskly toward Liang, leaving Ronaldo and Benzema looking at each other in bewilderment. Should we go say hello to that kid? Together? Together. The two exchanged glances for a moment, and then walked towards Lyon together. Benzema had gradually become familiar with Lyon during the 2-week summer training camp, but he mainly accompanied Ronaldo. Otherwise, Ronaldo alone would never have taken the initiative to greet a newcomer so proactively. So arrogant. Mourinho watched this scene from the sidelines with his hands behind his back, looking somewhat surprised. Perhaps he was surprised that Ronaldo showed a stronger desire to get close to his new teammates than he had imagined. Perhaps they were surprised that Lyon had already gained initial recognition after just the second training session with the superstars. But no matter what, this is a good thing. He was very happy to see this happen. In the following days of training, Lyon continued to deliver a stable performance that satisfied Mourinho and his star teammates. It's not that Lyon's ability is enough to win over Real Madrid's coaching staff and the team's star players. Rather, his consistency gives Real Madrid at least one reliable backup option when it comes to choosing a substitute defensive midfielder. Under these circumstances, the atmosphere during Real Madrid's training camp was quite peaceful, with little restlessness. Besides his close friend Nacho, Lyon has gradually become able to chat with the team's superstars from time to time. Before Xabi Alonso returned to the club after his break, Mourinho experimented with several midfield combinations. On August 4, in a friendly match against Club America of Mexico, Mourinho made several changes to the formation, from 4-3-3 to 4-2-3-1 and then to 4-4-2. Basically, the team's existing midfielders were all brought out to warm up. Granero was the most outstanding player, very active in attack, and assisted Ronaldo to score the first goal in the first half. In contrast, Lyon's performance was not as remarkable. He came on for 27 minutes in the second half, making a crucial interception, winning 2 headers, and completing a recovery run down the wing. With an 85% pass completion rate and no threatening passes, it still looks mediocre. So much so that many North American fans who came to watch the spectacle wondered if Real Madrid had signed such a young Eastern player specifically for the East Asian market. They didn't care which East Asian country Lyon was from, they didn't care about his youth training background, and they didn't care why Mourinho chose to bring Lyon to the United States for pre-season training at the last minute. All they want to see is a performance by Real Madrid star players, Ronaldo, Benzema, and Marcelo. Therefore, it is not surprising that such a joke was made. In Mourinho's eyes, Lyon's partnership with Gago in the double pivot midfield during the last 30 minutes of the game was a pleasant surprise. Why didn't he value Gago before? The reason Gago is so weak is that he is not physically durable enough to play as a defensive midfielder, making him prone to injury and lacking in frontal interception. When he plays as a playmaking midfielder, he is not strong enough in protecting the ball. These weaknesses make him too easy to lose possession of the ball. But with Lyon's support and ball protection, which, while not particularly strong, are sufficient, along with his proactive and timely defensive coverage and excellent frontal aerial defense, he is a true asset. Hey, that just makes up for Gago's defensive shortcomings when organizing the attack. When it comes to Real Madrid's defensive phase, Lyon's excellent defensive positioning allows him to hold key positions, while Gago's sweeping coverage is extensive, and the two complement each other perfectly. This unexpected event truly brought Mourinho quite a surprise. On August 7, in a friendly match against the Los Angeles Galaxy, Mourinho surprisingly fielded a double defensive midfield pairing of Lyon and Gago at the start of the second half. As a result, Real Madrid, who had drawn 2-2 with the Los Angeles Galaxy in the first half, steadily controlled the situation in the second half and did not concede a single goal. Cristiano Ronaldo ultimately scored the winning goal, and Real Madrid secured their second consecutive victory in the friendly matches during their U.S. training camp. A 3-2 scoreline isn't appealing, and Real Madrid's attack in the second half, hampered by constant substitutions, wasn't particularly sharp or impressive. However, Real Madrid's midfield and defense have indeed become visibly more stable. It may still not be so obvious, but it is indeed a fact. After playing a friendly match against the Los Angeles Galaxy, the Real Madrid team concluded their week-long training camp in the United States and flew back to Madrid the following day. At the Valdebebas training ground, Lyon finally saw the rest of Real Madrid's stars return to training. Khedira has completed his physical tests and officially joined Real Madrid's first team to begin training with his teammates. The bright colors in Gago's eyes, which had been much brighter in the past few days, seemed to have dimmed again. Liang, however, did not feel much disappointment. After all, Khedira was Mourinho's hand-picked midfielder, and this news was no secret in the transfer market after the World Cup. Instead of worrying about how much playing time he will lose in Real Madrid's first team because of Khedira's arrival, he should focus on his own performance. Liang is more concerned about whether he will get a chance to be transferred abroad during the winter transfer window. And he had already prepared to draw that golden talent fragment card. On the evening of August 10th. After training, he received a blessing from both Cristiano Ronaldo and Karim Benzema, which they had requested. Liang rushed home and sat down on his sofa, rubbing his hands together. With a look of anticipation, he spent the 500 points he had accumulated over 6 years in the road to becoming a football king system. The phone next to him was still playing Cristiano Ronaldo and Benzema's awkward Chinese recording of "May you be blessed with good fortune, and may all the unlucky ones be gone." Liang only saw a flash of golden light before his eyes, and before he could even shout, "Golden Legend." A card of a middle-aged player wearing a blue and white jersey, with medium-length hair and a slightly melancholy expression, appeared before his eyes. Liang was stunned. First, he was pleasantly surprised, then he was conflicted and disgusted, and then he was pleasantly surprised again and conflicted again. It took him 2 or 3 minutes to come to his senses and force himself to accept reality. Valorian's 11-12 season short passing talent fragment, talent value, 93, maximum value 100, hosts current short passing ability value 78, bonus experience insight, core organizational principles. Is this golden talent shard any good? It's actually quite good. Although it is a fragment of Valorian's talent in the twilight of his career, it is a technical skill that has not deteriorated too much, and it is still his signature short passing technique. Liang's short passing ability is only 78 even after maxing out his skills. Raising the cap to 93 will keep him busy for a long time. Moreover, the accompanying insights and experiences from Bellerin's own organization are invaluable. When Liang received Makelele's gold full talent card at the end of his career, he found the defense positioning tips that the system included very helpful. Even after studying it to this day, Liang still feels that he is far from fully understanding Makelele's insights on defensive positioning. Therefore, this core organizational principles of Valorant must be something he has been pondering for a long time. What he really wants now is a talent shard that can help him take his defense to the next level. After all, for him, honing a skill to its highest level is currently the most cost-effective training method. But since the draws were already finished, Liang had no choice but to temporarily change his extra training plan. On August 11th, at the Valdebebas training base, Xabi Alonso was quite surprised to see Liang asking to train with him after the training session ended. "You want to learn from me how to organize a team? Chapter 5 That kid is really going to start for Real Madrid, please add to your favorites, please." Xabi Alonso asked again, still somewhat uncertain, and after receiving an affirmative answer from Liang, Alonso became interested. He and Liang were not familiar with each other. Because he participated in the World Cup this summer and helped Spain win the title, he, along with Casillas and Ramos, have had more time to rest. Therefore, these Spanish national team players did not participate in the preseason training camp that Mourinho organized in mid-July. However, he had also watched the 2 friendly matches Real Madrid played in the United States. Liang's teamwork with Gago in the second friendly match impressed him. Despite his young age, Liang's performance on the field is remarkably composed. While he might not be considered outstanding, his composure, far beyond his 19 years, was enough to give Alonso a good impression of Liang. Is there a reason? If it's convenient to talk about it, because as far as I know, you've been playing as a defensive midfielder since you joined Real Madrid's youth team. If you need, I can actually share more of my experience in defending in the backfield with you. I think that might be helpful for your development. Alonso carefully considered his words, trying to persuade Liang to focus more on improving his defensive skills in a tactful way. Because organizing a team is not something that a young midfielder can master and apply skillfully simply by studying hard. This is similar to the mysterious thing called a striker's smell in front of goal. First, you need to have the talent in this area. Second, you need to find the right training direction so that your growth can achieve twice the result with half the effort. The fact that Liang has played as a defensive midfielder in the youth team for so many years speaks volumes. Liang doesn't have the talent to organize a team. If he did, the coaches in Real Madrid's youth academy wouldn't be blind or stupid. Developing a calm and collected playmaker is clearly more in Real Madrid's interest than developing a purely defensive midfielder. To put it bluntly, even if they can't use it themselves, they'll still be worth more if they sell it as an organizational core in the future. Can I ask you for advice on defense if I have any questions? Thank you so much. I want to seize every opportunity to learn as much as possible, even if I don't gain much in the end, at least I tried. It depends on whether it's convenient for you. Looking at Liang, who was sincerely explaining his reasons and also knew how to take advantage of the situation, Alonso suddenly realized that he shouldn't have brought up the topic of sharing defensive experience earlier. However, after pondering for a moment, Alonso gradually relaxed his brow and then patted Liang on the shoulder heavily. After training sessions, let's practice passing together. Today can be considered the first day. After Alonso finished speaking, he gestured for Liang to come with him to another training area. Liang, who reacted quickly, thanked Alonso repeatedly and then obediently went to fetch the simple equipment needed for practice. Nacho, who was waiting to complete the extra training with Liang, was dumbfounded, and the rest of the Real Madrid players were also somewhat surprised. Alonso gets along well with all the players on the team, and they are very united and close-knit in training and on the field. However, as soon as his regular training session ends, Alonso almost always goes home after either doing extra training on his own or after receiving physical therapy. In other words, Longu is very dedicated and gets along well with everyone, but in private, rather than saying he is good buddies or good friends with the Real Madrid players, it is more accurate to say that they are good colleagues who respect each other. Liang, that kid, not only quickly got closer to Ronaldo and Benzema a few days ago, but today he even got Alonso to agree to train with him extra. What's going on? Does being handsome really guarantee success in expanding one's social network? Many Real Madrid stars with average looks fell into deep thought. Meanwhile, on the other side of the small training field, Liang couldn't wait to get something for free. Oh, I mean, not free. He wanted to ask Alonso for some insights into the organization that he couldn't quite grasp. After being bombarded with several insightful questions by Liang, Alonso finally came to believe in Liang's determination to learn. This kid wasn't joking, he genuinely wanted to slowly learn how to organize a team. As Alonso answered Liang's question in his own way and with his experience, he looked at the young yet thoughtful face of the other man and couldn't help but feel a sense of emotion. Liang is so similar to himself at 19. He has firm goals, is ambitious, and also possesses a composure far beyond his peers. Aside from their different talents, Liang is practically a carbon copy of another 19-year-old Alonso. This may be one of the reasons why Alonso finally agreed to let Liang train with him. He admired Liang's determination and seriousness. Because he was the same way, taking the initiative at the age of 19 to find a head coach and firmly explain his desire to take on the responsibility of helping the team avoid relegation. His courage and determination ultimately gave him a good start to his career. Now that he has seen Liang, who also needs opportunities and recognition and is taking the initiative, he really can't bring himself to refuse. However, Liang's earnest questions and diligent extra training have put Alonso at ease. He is ambitious, hardworking, and quick-witted. Alonso suddenly realized that Liang might not necessarily have no hope of making a breakthrough in organizing the attack. This breakthrough may take a long time. However, if Liang can maintain his current learning attitude and diligently accumulate experience correctly, then he will be able to succeed. Sooner or later, he believed that Liang would bring him a little surprise. One wants to learn, and the other is willing and qualified to teach. As a result, the strange mentor-student duo of Liang and Xabi Alonso quickly became the focus of discussion at the Valdebebas training base for the next 2 days. Of course, the gradual improvement in his relationship with Alonso did not bring Liang much improvement in his tactical status within the team. Mourinho has been practicing the formation and tactics with Khedira and Alonso starting together the most recently. The only difference is that when playing a 4-2-3-1 formation, Xabi Alonso will partner with Khedira to form a double pivot in midfield, while when playing a 4-3-3 formation, Khedira will operate on the right side of midfield, and Alonso will be positioned further back. Mourinho clearly has high hopes for Khedira. Perhaps he hopes this tall midfielder, with his impressive, physical attributes, can be like his former favorite, Eschen. Protect the team's playmaker with diligent sweeping and tough defense. At Real Madrid, the core player is naturally Xabi Alonso. But in the Beckenbauer Cup match on August 14, Khedira, who made his first appearance for Real Madrid and started the match, failed to deliver the performance Mourinho had expected. The German midfielder's physical strength is only passable, he is far less physically imposing than his physique suggests. While they did sweep and cover, Khedira's defensive efficiency was rather poor. What's even more bizarre is, contrary to Mourinho's expectations that Khedira would effectively clean up Alonso's mess, the situation turned out to be quite different. In the match, Alonso became the one who had to divert his energy to clean up Khedira's mess. Because Khedira's desire to push forward was just too strong. His active participation in the attacking third did indeed make Real Madrid's attacking play run more smoothly to some extent. But once he made that forward run, he couldn't get back. After orchestrating the attack, Xabi Alonso also had to clean up Khedira's mess by making defensive tackles. He was doing the work of two people, which was really outrageous. This is actually not too bad, after all, Khedira played like this in the Bundesliga before, and Mourinho is still confident that he can successfully transform Khedira into a tough defensive midfielder. But just 2 hours after the Beckenbauer Cup match against Bayern Munich, Khedira felt discomfort in his calf and rushed to see the team doctor for a checkup. Mourinho finally received the news that Khedira would need at least 2 weeks of rest after his anxious wait. At that moment, Mourinho literally cursed. The pre-season isn't even over yet, and all three centre-backs, Pepe, Garay, and Albiol, are injured. Lassana Diarra was injured and needed 2 months of rest, and now Khedira is also injured and needs 2 weeks of rest, which will almost certainly cause him to miss all the remaining friendly matches and the first round of La Liga. Real Madrid's luck this month has truly hit rock bottom. The defense is suffering from a lot of injuries, with the centre-backs being the hardest hit. Now, the defensive midfielders are also in dire need of players. Left with no other option, Mourinho had to temporarily fill in for Gago, with Lee Ong-Sien being a stronger defender. In 2 consecutive friendly matches, Lyon was given the opportunity to start, forming a mentor-student double defensive midfield with Xabi Alonso. As for the results, anxious Real Madrid fans couldn't really see how good they were, but at least they stabilized the situation. Many reporters praised Alonso for shouldering the heavy responsibility of Real Madrid's midfield at this time, handling both organization and defense, which was truly hard work. Lyon took on the heavy responsibility of intercepting Alonso head-on, repeatedly helping Alonso double-team opponents, and his contributions in top defense and help defense were naturally downplayed by the media. However, even if Lyon is ordinary, he started in both of the 2 consecutive friendly matches and played almost the full game. This treatment quickly attracted the attention of many fans in Spanish football. Because almost everyone understood Mourinho's implied meaning. He might actually start this Eastern kid at Real Madrid. Thank you so much for your votes and donations. Chapter 6: Embracing the Future. Real Betis have not given up on signing Lyon, and they made a final negotiation effort before the start of the season. Unsurprisingly, Real Madrid, or rather Mourinho, simply refused. Perhaps this decision is not a good outcome for Lyon. After all, Lassana and Khedira were only temporarily injured, not dead. After both of them recover from their injuries, Liang's playing time will naturally be delayed. But Liang is no longer entitled to arbitrarily refuse to support the club that nurtured him. Fortunately, Mourinho was also very frank. He recently had another talk with Liang, stating that Liang needed to sacrifice half a season to cover for Real Madrid's defensive midfield position. The only reward he can offer is if Lassana Diarra and Khedira are both fit to play for Real Madrid when the winter transfer window opens. Then Liang will be able to get Real Madrid support and be loaned out to a club that suits him. Liang didn't really have a choice, but Mourinho's verbal promise made him feel much better. On August 27, it was basically after the last training session before the start of the new season. Real Madrid's first-team players gathered on the training ground, awaiting Mourinho's verdict on their fate for the new season. Whoever makes the starting 11 for the first league match against Mallorca on the evening of August 29 will basically have earned Mourinho's initial trust. Players who were favored under Pellegrini may not necessarily have the same tactical importance under Mourinho as they did last season. Some players will lose their original tactical roles, while another group of players will naturally benefit. Of course, Real Madrid superstars, such as Cristiano Ronaldo, Casillas, Ramos, and Xabi Alonso, are not worried about their starting positions. No matter how the coach changes, as long as the new coach isn't an idiot, they won't be relegated to the bench. And that is indeed the case. The names of Cristiano Ronaldo, Xabi Alonso, and Sergio Ramos were already mentioned by Mr. Kaká, a former Real Madrid legend who is currently the team's assistant coach. Higuaín, who was selected for the starting lineup, was clearly relieved, while Benzema looked slightly disappointed. Marcelo, Arbeloa, Canales, and other players selected for the starting lineup in the first round of the league were all beaming with joy. After Casillas' name was announced, almost all the Real Madrid players on the field turned their attention to Leong and Gago. Now only one starting player has not been announced. Xabi Alonso and Canales occupy two of the starting three midfield positions, while the remaining midfielder is basically a defensive player. Otherwise, if Granero is brought on again, Xabi Alonso will have to play as a lone defensive midfielder, which would put too much pressure on him in terms of both playmaking and defense. After a brief pause, Kaká didn't keep the suspense going for long and quickly announced the name of the last starting player. Leong. Gago clenched his fists, and in that instant he felt as if his heart was being squeezed. Mourinho stood calmly to the side, signaling Kaká to announce the remaining substitutes from the 18-man squad. Leong, on the other hand, pursed his lips, his expression equally calm, at least on the surface. Alonso was very satisfied with Leong's composure at this moment. After teaching Leong for about 10 days, he had gained a basic understanding of Leong's personality traits. Leong, with his calm demeanor and cheerful, sunny nature, must have been very happy at that moment. However, his precocious maturity led him to make the most appropriate response. It's normal to be excited, but such excessive behavior can easily upset some players on the team. Those with conflicting interests are unhappy, and those without such interests may also feel annoyed. In any of the top 5 European leagues, you'll find numerous factions and gangsters in the locker room. As one of the top clubs in the world of football, Real Madrid's dressing room situation is naturally more complex. Alonso's reluctance to have much interaction with his Real Madrid teammates off-field is largely due to this issue. Since he doesn't join any faction, these complex disputes naturally have nothing to do with him. Leong can now chat with anyone in the team, and he usually has a cheerful and outgoing personality, always wanting to make friends. He was able to speak with Romario a while ago, and in recent days he seems to be frequently discussing defensive positioning with Ramos. Alonso was slightly worried about him because of this. I'm afraid that his good relationships with the various superstars in the team might cause him to lose his self-control. But seeing that Leong remains low-key and composed, Alonso is relieved. He didn't misjudge him. After Kaká announced the 18-man squad, Mourinho first encouraged the players who were not selected, and then boosted the morale of the starting players. Before the start of the new season, a series of injuries among Real Madrid's defensive players not only made things difficult for Mourinho. The atmosphere within the team seems to have been significantly affected, with everyone expressing greater concern about their performance at the start of the new season. Mourinho didn't want this morale-affecting anxiety to carry over onto the field. Therefore, he had to make this mobilization today, not only to encourage, but also as a kind of warning. The health of the roster is a fact, but private discussions have stopped today. No matter how difficult it is for the coaching staff to select players, once a player is selected for the 18-man roster, they must clear their minds of any unnecessary distractions and be prepared to give everything for Real Madrid's victory. They don't just want to succeed, they absolutely must succeed. Because they represent Real Madrid, and that's the significance of these players wearing Real Madrid jerseys. Mourinho dislikes players who lack willpower and tend to become complacent. Even if the midfield and defense are short of players right now, Mourinho will never tolerate any player who lacks fighting spirit on the field. Whether this, not indulging, means benching or removing someone from the 18-man squad altogether is something Real Madrid's players will have to carefully consider themselves. Time quickly passed to the evening of August 29. While there are widespread concerns about Real Madrid's defense in the new season, the Real Madrid players have already traveled by bus from their hotel to the Iberian Star Stadium. The natural scenery on Mallorca is superb, but at this moment, few Real Madrid players were in the mood to pay attention to the scenery outside the car window. Mourinho and assistant coach Kaká are still using the last bit of time to discuss tactics. Leong sat next to Xabi Alonso, calmly and peacefully closing his eyes and falling asleep. Back when my brother Long was not even 20 years old, he was already a key player at Real Sociedad. Later, he went to Liverpool to play in the Premier League and faced off against all kinds of midfield powerhouses. In 2005, he personally experienced an incredible battle, turning the tide against Milan in the first half and successfully winning the Champions League title that countless players dream of. Having successfully joined Real Madrid last year and won the World Cup this summer, he can certainly be described as a man of great experience. But with Leong, Xabi Alonso has repeatedly redefined his understanding of young players. "I know you're calm, but you don't have to be this calm." Uncharacteristically, Alonso muttered a complaint to himself, then looked at his carefree apprentice and shook his head with a smile. For no apparent reason, the slight worry that had been lingering in his heart seemed to be gradually dissipating. At least, he doesn't have to worry about Leong's legs going weak in his first league match for Real Madrid. After warming up, Leong returned to the away team's locker room with his teammates. Cristiano Ronaldo fixed his hair in front of the mirror, while Mourinho then stood in the center of the locker room and began his passionate speech. Leong didn't actually hear clearly what kind of motivation Mourinho was giving him. He simply kept his tactical responsibilities in mind and remembered the team's overall tactical tone. Amidst the cacophony of shouts, Leong let out a couple of symbolic shouts before it was time to line up in the players' tunnel. "Relax, little lion. Don't worry too much once you're on the field. Just keep in touch with your teammates." Casillas patted Leong's head affectionately, reassuring him. The other Real Madrid players also patted Leong on the backside with smiles or offered him a few words of encouragement as they passed by. After all, in their eyes, Leong is still a 19-year-old child, and it's inevitable that he would be nervous for his debut. Leong did not refuse his teammates' kindness. After gesturing that he was fine, he stood behind Alonso. Around 9 p.m., the referee team finally set off and led the way out of the players' tunnel. Leong took a deep breath, then followed Alonso onto the pitch. As the lights shone on his face, he slightly raised his head to meet the cheers mixed with a chorus of boos. He also faced his unknown future. "Because I had to go out on errands today, I set the release time for the new book's update late last night. If a friend who is also writing a book hadn't reminded me just now, I wouldn't have known that the second chapter hadn't been released yet. This is so frustrating." Chapter 7, a 10-year cycle, a bankrupt version of Makelele, please add to your collection. Both teams have entered the pitch. "Oh, look who our live camera is focused on. Leong. This young man performed very well for Real Betis last season. He successfully helped Real Betis achieve a third-place finish in the Segunda División last season, a result that was enough to secure Real Betis direct promotion to La Liga. This summer, Leong was recalled by his parent club Real Madrid for summer training, and he ultimately succeeded in staying with Real Madrid's first team. Today, Leong will start for Real Madrid in the first round of the new season. This is a remarkable achievement. We wish this 19-year-old boy good luck today. The commentator on the Spanish sports channel Movistar is currently speaking eloquently with a prepared script in hand. Since Real Madrid announced their starting lineup yesterday, Leong's information and past performance have been thoroughly investigated by various sports channels in the shortest possible time. 19 years old, from East Asia, specifically from China, a country known as a football wasteland within East Asia. A product of Real Madrid's youth academy, Castilla is one of the most low-key of the new generation of outstanding players born in the 1990s, and also one of the key contributors to Real Betis' promotion to the top division last season. When these factors come together, the sheer volume and buzz surrounding Leong instantly attracts the interest of major media outlets. It's not that Leong is so outstanding that he can spark such a heated discussion among fans in Spain today. Rather, it's because his resume is simply too ordinary. It's quite unbelievable that a young player like him could start for Real Madrid in the first round of the new season. Many Barcelona fans are now ready to see Real Madrid stumble in their season opener. Why would they pair a young, inexperienced player with Alonso, especially in such an important defensive midfield position? Well, these Barcelona fans have already prepared their sarcastic remarks about Real Madrid. Meanwhile, Real Madrid fans are also divided, with different voices emerging. Compared to the fans who support Lyon, the majority of Real Madrid fans are not optimistic that Lyon can represent Real Madrid in La Liga right now. It's true that Lyon is a product of Real Madrid's own youth academy, but his past low-key performance and excessively young age make it difficult for most Real Madrid fans to feel at ease. They would prefer to see a safer, Gago plus Alonso, defensive midfield pairing. Or, to take it to an even more extreme level, Alonso could play as a lone defensive midfielder, and a Canales plus Granero central midfield pairing could be used, rather than seeing Lyon and Alonso start. There's no point in delving too deeply into the result of a friendly match. Moreover, Liang's performance in the two friendly matches in which he started could only be described as mediocre. To put it nicely, Liang's style is steady and unremarkable, but it doesn't cause any major problems either. To put it bluntly, it's just too mediocre. Real Madrid needs talent, ability, the best young players, and the most outstanding immediate stars. But Lyon doesn't seem to have any of these things now. It's no wonder that while the discerning Real Madrid fans outwardly defended Lyon, internally, most did not want to see him start for Real Madrid. Meanwhile, Lyon, who was stretching on the field and waiting for the match to officially start, had no idea that he had caused a major split among Real Madrid fans. Does he care about these opinions? I care, but I don't really care. It's true that Lyon transmigrated with a cheat code, but he's still a normal person. As a person, he has normal emotional fluctuations and hopes to gain more recognition from others. Given the choice between being questioned and being trusted and praised, a normal person would naturally choose the latter, and Lyon was no exception. But he also deeply understood a principle. That is, in the world of professional football, respect is earned through your own efforts, not through empty boasts. Lyon did not expect to quickly reverse the public opinion problems he was facing in just 1 or 2 matches. But at least, he believes he can prove himself to Real Madrid fans in 1 or 2 games. Mourinho's decision to start Lyon alongside Alonso makes perfect sense. 2100 hours on August 29, 2010. With the referee's whistle, the first round of the 2010-2011 La Liga season kicked off with Real Madrid visiting Real Mallorca. Today, Mourinho fielded a 4-3-3 starting formation. However, unlike the 4-3-3 formation commonly used by other teams, Real Madrid's midfield trio includes 2 defensive midfielders, Lyon and Xabi Alonso, and only 1 central midfielder, Canales. In the forward line, Cristiano Ronaldo, Gonzalo Higuaín, and Di Maria all started. Real Madrid's defense is in a rather dire situation right now. Starting centre-back Pepe is injured, third centre-back Albiol is injured, and fifth centre-back Garay is also injured. Therefore, Ramos, who is considered the team's fourth centre-back and is currently playing as a right-back, had to step up first. Ramos' right flank is now only filled by Arbeloa. Carvalho and Ramos partnered as the 2 centre-backs, with Marcelo, a player known for his strong attacking style, on Carvalho's left. The goalkeeper position is still occupied by Saint Casillas, a familiar figure to Real Madrid fans. Looking at this lineup, Real Madrid's current squad has some issues, but Real Madrid fans aren't too worried about facing Mallorca as an opponent. Mourinho set the tactical tone for winning possession and controlling the tempo of the game from the very beginning. Therefore, Real Madrid's early pressing seemed a bit excessive. Canales and the attacking trio pushed directly up to the center circle of Mallorca's half. In order to keep the playmaking connected, Alonso had to move forward to maintain a smooth link with Canales. Like Alonso, Lyon also moved forward in position to maintain overall dominance over Mallorca. But he doesn't actually get many touches on the ball, because the attack doesn't start from him. Instead, he spent more time observing Mallorca's attacking style, and his positioning was always slightly behind and to the side of Alonso. After Alonso was free to focus on orchestrating and transferring attacks, Real Madrid's offensive momentum picked up quickly. Several long diagonal passes allowed Ronaldo and Di Maria to fully utilize their speed and individual explosiveness. Mallorca's defensive line on the flanks was repeatedly squeezed, and with Canales' support in the middle and his ability to deliver threatening passes, Mallorca's midfield and defense were completely breached by Real Madrid within the first 15 minutes. At that time, Ronaldo received a long pass from Alonso and made a forward run with Higuaín, launching a quick counter-attack in the heart of Mallorca's territory. As a result, after attracting two defenders, Ronaldo passed the ball behind the Mallorca defense, and Higuaín's offside run was also very impressive. But in that final shot, Higuaín overthought things. He tried to dribble past Mallorca's goalkeeper, but his foot inexplicably slipped, and he touched the ball with too much force, ultimately sending it out of bounds in a very absurd fashion. Mourinho, who was already prepared to celebrate on the sidelines, almost knelt down on the spot. Cristiano Ronaldo and Di Maria on the other side were also dumbfounded. "Dude, this pancake is practically in your throat, are you going to spit it out? It's such a pity to miss such an opportunity, and it must have had some impact on the mentality of the Real Madrid players." Mallorca, who played defensively and counter-attackingly, seized their opportunity and launched a quick counter-attack in the 21st minute of the first half after intercepting the ball. Having just orchestrated the attack, Alonso immediately turned and chased back. However, Canales and Di Maria pushed forward too far, making it difficult for them to track back in time. Real Madrid's defensive strength on the right flank and in the middle was severely insufficient. As Mallorca prepared to launch a very threatening counter-attack, many Real Madrid fans instinctively gasped in surprise while watching on television. But the next second, an unremarkable figure wearing a number 23 jersey blocked Mallorca striker Enrich's path of dribbling forward. A tough head-on confrontation, a close-range, instantaneous tackle, disrupted possession of the ball, and both attackers and defenders almost fell to the ground together. Alonso, who was chasing back in time, chose to clear the ball directly out of bounds, while Leong, wearing the number 23 jersey, got up from the grass as if nothing had happened. "Well done. You did a great job, kid." Alonso, abandoning his usual debonair demeanor, roared excitedly amidst the boos of the home fans and slapped Leong hard on the shoulder and back. Leong, baring his teeth, quickly grabbed Alonso's raised hand. "His teacher's grip is too strong, he can't take another hit, so he'd better give him a hug." Mourinho and Kaká both breathed a sigh of relief on the sidelines, and then applauded Leong with great satisfaction. Di Maria, who had run back to defend the opponent's throw-in, patted Leong on the backside gratefully. If Enrich had been allowed to break through that ball, the lack of defensive depth in Real Madrid's backfield would have magnified his mistake by amplifying it many times over. While feeling lingering fear, Di Maria also felt a sense of relief. Thankfully the little lion stopped it. Mallorca's throw-in was headed in by Arbeloa. Di Maria received the ball with his back to goal and passed it across to Alonso, who pushed it to the left wing. Marcelo, having made a run forward, surveyed the surroundings and began dribbling forward, signaling a new wave of attack from Real Madrid. Mallorca, on the other hand, quickly retreated to defend. Leong still didn't follow up with a forward run. He stood behind Alonso, watching his team's attack start from the left flank this time, and subconsciously moved closer to the left half of the field. Mallorca's defensive midfielder, Madrid, didn't give Marcelo any opportunities to push forward. While fullback Nzu and Marcelo were locked in a race, Madrid suddenly cut in front of Marcelo and Ronaldo, intercepting the ball once again. After receiving the ball, Madrid did not slow down the counter-attack pace, but instead sent a long pass directly to his own striker Castro, who had successfully made a forward run and accelerated forward. Real Madrid fans' hearts were in their throats once again. Castro made several stops and starts, then headed straight for Real Madrid's territory. This time, Alonso was prepared in advance and was about to accelerate to intercept him from the flank, but Leon, who was behind him, reacted even faster. "I'll do it." A loud shout rang out behind Alonso. Before Alonso could even turn around, he saw a figure decisively shoveling into the ground. After a brief moment of thought, Castro decisively abandoned the option of risking injury by clashing feet with Leon. His control of the ball after his touch was not stable, and in the end he could only jump up helplessly, watching Leon tackle the ball back to the midfield area with a look of embarrassment and resentment. Another counter-attack opportunity for Mallorca. Castro is about to accelerate. Oh! Leon! My God! In less than 2 minutes, Leon has made 2 crucial defensive interceptions. Alonso hasn't even run 5 meters this time, and Mallorca's counter-attack is over. An incredible defensive performance. The young lion from Castilla seems to be declaring to everyone that there's a reason why he was called Little Makelele by the Real Madrid U19 coach. Movie stars commentators enthusiastically praised Leong's outstanding performance on the defensive end over those 2 minutes. The phrase, Little Makelele, also brought back memories for countless Real Madrid fans, reminding them of that special defensive stalwart in Real Madrid's squad 10 years ago. He has no flashy skills, no tall stature, and no handsome appearance. But it was through his precise interceptions and anticipatory tackles that Makelele firmly secured his position as a key defensive midfielder in the star-studded lineup of the Galacticos era. To this day, Real Madrid has not found a defensive midfielder like Makelele did back then. And that defensive stalwart who brought Real Madrid League and Champions League titles in just 3 years after joining the club. Having withstood the test of time, it has become a shining star in the hearts of countless Real Madrid fans. Now, 10 years later, a similar figure with a touch of familiarity has reappeared before Real Madrid fans. Do Leon and Makelele look alike? At first glance, it doesn't look like it. Because Leon is 1.83 meters tall, strong, and has a sunny and handsome appearance. Makelele is a typical powerhouse, short and stocky with a slightly mature appearance. Judging by appearance alone, it's really hard to associate Leon with the former Makelele. But upon closer inspection, the two also share many similar technical characteristics. Excellent defensive positioning, accurate anticipation and interception, not easily dribbling forward, and the passing is almost always the same, simple and unpretentious, style. Of course, Liang's defensive experience is far less than that of Makelele when he transferred to Real Madrid. In comparison, Liang's defensive attacks seem more decisive, and his ability to confront opponents head-on is also stronger. Overall, judging from his current abilities, Liang is at best a bankrupt version of Makelele. However, his prospects seem to have more potential than Makelele's. After all, his physical attributes are what they are. If he develops smoothly in the future, let alone having 80% of Makelele's defensive positioning and interception abilities, plus top-notch physical strength and aerial ability, what a defensive monster he would be. Although this is still just a hypothetical scenario, it hasn't stopped Real Madrid fans from increasing their support for Leon. Mourinho, standing on the sidelines, had his eyes shining and kept muttering to himself as he stared at Leon. This kid is a game changer. What do you mean, ordinary? He's a gem. Splitting these 4,000 words into 2 chapters didn't feel right, so I've decided to combine them into 1 chapter. Today's update is 4,000 words in one go, that's enough, brothers. Chapter 8 Mourinho's Dream Waste, please add to your favorites, please. Take every last bit. Move up to the flanks too, be decisive in your attacks, I'll cover for you. After making the tackle head-on, Leon quickly got up from the grass and immediately shouted a reminder to Canales to try and control the ball. The football is still rolling on the grass. However, thanks to Liang's timely reminder, Canales managed to pass the ball to Marcelo, who was coming up to receive it, before Mallorca midfielder de Guzman could reach it. Marcelo shook his head and looked around. Seeing no opportunity, he passed the ball back to Leon, who had raised his hand to signal. Mallorca's forwards seemed to have taken the wrong medicine, as they immediately pounced on Leon like hungry tigers as soon as they saw him with the ball. Leon could have chosen to pass the ball forward at that moment, allowing Alonso to deal with the Mallorca forwards' relentless pursuit, but he didn't. Even though Alonso had already raised his hand to ask for the ball. Sergio. Leon yelled a reminder at Ramos, who was playing centre-back today, before passing the ball back. After passing the ball, he didn't panic and retreat, because that might have blocked Ramos's space to pass forward. Leon chose to move wide, quickly running to the defensive line almost parallel to his 2 centre-backs, basically in the left flank area behind Marcelo. When the 2 Mallorca strikers turned to press Ramos, Ramos had many passing options. He can pass across to his partner Carvalho, or pass back to goalkeeper Casillas. Of course, Leon, who is standing on his left side near the wing, also becomes a safe target for the pass. Ramos barely hesitated. After Leonra took his position on the wing, his cross was quickly delivered. Mallorca's striker Castro charged toward Leon again, but this time Leon did not give him a chance to get close. He received the ball and advanced directly forward, then calmly passed it along the sideline to Marcelo. Leon executed a classic move, breaking through the pressing from the defensive midfield position. There are no fancy dribbling techniques or brilliant feints to get past opponents, it's all about steady and clear-thinking passing and positioning. Liang's choice was very steady, and Ramos and Marcelo, who were passing to him, also felt very relaxed. Alonso smiled and nodded at Leong in the middle, then moved forward with more confidence to receive the ball and organize the attack. Seeing that Real Madrid had broken through their pressing and quickly launched a new wave of attacks, Mallorca fans booed again in dissatisfaction. Amidst the chorus of boos, at least half were probably directed at Leon, who was now silently running behind Alonso. Ramos now has a chance to exchange a few words with Leon. Young Shuayi still has a head of flowing long hair, but his slightly hardcore face doesn't quite match his long hair. Fantastic defense. Little Lion, I think you should be prepared to gradually become known to other teams in La Liga. After a simple handshake, Ramos winked at Leon and covered his mouth with a joke. Leon didn't think it was that exaggerated, but upon hearing Ramos's praise, he still subconsciously smiled and shrugged. The live stream camera was pointed directly at Leon at that moment. Thus, captured faithfully by the camera, Leong's image as a sunny and handsome young man with an unintentional smile quickly spread throughout Spain. At this moment, Leong attracted more attention than he had in his previous 6 years of youth training plus half a year of his career in the Spanish second division. If he only had good performance on the field but average looks, or if he was handsome but had terrible performance on the field, he wouldn't have received so much attention from Spanish fans. But he is now playing for Real Madrid, and he performed exceptionally well on the defensive end just now. He is also handsome and outstanding, so he has all the elements to become famous. Leong had no idea that his casual smile would generate so much media attention for him tomorrow. He continued to carry out his tactical tasks with seriousness and caution. Thanks to his consistent performance today, Alonso had no worries on the defensive end and organized the offense with ease. Canales can also further showcase his attacking talent. This young Spanish talent, who is the same age as Leong, performed quite well today. With the ability to focus entirely on organizing the attack without having to frequently retreat to defend, he and Alonso quickly took control of the game's tempo. Mallorca's midfield is of average strength, and their initial strategy of playing defensively and launching counterattacks yielded good results. But after Leong thwarted their 2 consecutive attacking runs, they couldn't come up with a better way to break through Real Madrid's midfield and attacking dominance. Only now did Leong truly experience what it was like to play for Real Madrid's first team. Once he's done his job on defense, there's really nothing left for him to do on offense. The team has Alonso and Canales to organize the attack, Ronaldo and Di Maria to break through on the flanks, and Marcelo, the left back, is also exceptionally capable. Higuaín and Ronaldo were the ones who delivered the finishing blows. In terms of attack, Real Madrid's first team has world-class stars in every position. This is a completely different feeling from when he played for Real Madrid's third team, Castilla, and Real Betis. Putting aside the media attention and the pressure of performance, Leong has to admit that playing as a defensive midfielder for Real Madrid's first team is indeed very easy. He doesn't need to take on any extra tasks, he just needs to do his job and then pass the ball to his teammates. Of course, the premise for wanting to work easily is that Real Madrid is stronger than its opponents. If Leong were to face teams like Barcelona, Bayern Munich, or Manchester United, he would likely be the player under the most pressure and with the heaviest workload on the field. Fortunately, Real Madrid is only playing against Mallorca today. Despite their lackluster attack, Real Madrid managed to break through Mallorca's defense before halftime thanks to the constant ball movement in midfield. In the 43rd minute, Ronaldo received a cross from Canales, turned and unleashed an incredible long-range shot. This long-range shot from over 30 meters was powerful and heavy, and the football also had an extremely absurd drop in the air. Mallorca's goalkeeper, Awat, didn't dare to be careless and chose to punch the ball out of the goal area first. As a result, the football did not fly out of the penalty area as he expected. Instead, it flew crookedly to the right side of the penalty area after he punched it with both fists. Di Maria looked at the pie falling from the sky, but unlike Higuaín, she didn't spit it out with disgust. He chose to control the ball and then curl a shot into the far corner. Di Maria's shot selection and technique were excellent, and Nawat, unable to make a second save, could only watch helplessly as the ball flew into the goal behind him. With a 1-0 lead going into halftime, Real Madrid stars breathed a sigh of relief. Leong, who was wiping his sweat and talking to Alonso as he walked back to the players' tunnel, did not notice. Mourinho was staring intently at him from the doorway of the away team's locker room. It's as if I'm looking at his dream waist. Chapter 9, the generous rewards from La Liga matches and system upgrade. It's great that you're applying what you've learned. I thought you were too hesitant to ask for the ball, but I didn't expect you to be so bold. That's very good. Organizing a team actually starts with these small, detailed tasks. Most of the time, we're doing the work of organizing and moving possession of the ball, getting the whole team moving. As for when to speed things up, you need to pay attention to that. In the player tunnel, Alonso put his arm around Liang's shoulder and patiently explained to him the reasons behind his decisions to speed up or slow down the pace of the game in the first half. Liang lowered his head and pondered deeply. He's just getting started in organizing things, and it's hard for him to fully grasp some of what Alonso is saying, but that doesn't stop him from thinking outside the box and putting himself in Alonso's shoes. If he were in Alonso's position, what would he have done? How is his subconscious choice different from Alonso's? By comparing the passes in a very intuitive way, we can see the differences and gaps, and naturally we can gradually summarize the mistakes and try to understand Alonso's thinking process step by step. You could say that imitation is a great way to learn. Liang watched Makelele's match videos countless times back then. His relentless grinding ability gave him the foundation to improve his skills year after year in Real Madrid's youth academy. The valuable insights on defensive positioning from Makelele made his imitation efforts much more effective. If you don't have the talent for organizing things, then you might as well not learn it. But now that Leon has Valorant's core organizational principles in mind, he naturally has to seize the opportunity to ask Alonso about everything he doesn't understand. Alright, enough of this nonsense. Just think about what I just told you for half a month, and I'll demonstrate how to make passing choices during our extra practice sessions later. Seeing that Mourinho was still standing at the locker room door, Alonso stopped communicating with Liang, patted him on the head, and signaled him to hurry back to the locker room. Well done. Mourinho smiled and gave Alonso a high five, then patted Liang on the back in a friendly manner. The first half was great, keep it up. This sudden encouragement almost made Liang bite his tongue. Mourinho had treated him well before, but never to the point of actively encouraging him. Somewhat surprised, but not wanting to ask why, Liang could only walk into the locker room with a head full of questions. Hey! Our rising star is back. Marcelo was sitting on the bench taking off his socks when he saw Liang come in. He immediately started swinging the socks around and yelling. Having taken the lead smoothly in the first half, the Real Madrid players were clearly in high spirits, and they cheered and whistled along. Cristiano Ronaldo, having shed his arrogant facade, grinned and patted Liang's butt. Di Maria gave Liang a high five, while Casillas, as captain, offered Liang an encouraging round of applause. You really exceeded our expectations. Your performance in the match was outstanding, even better than your usual training. I think Jose can finally rest assured now. Kaká affectionately patted Liang on the back of the head. As a Real Madrid legend, he was naturally happy to see Real Madrid's homegrown youth players perform well. Liang did not become complacent, he remained humble and said he would continue to work hard. After giving high fives to his teammates, he returned to his seat to take off his shoes and rest. Mourinho saw all of this and his satisfaction with Liang grew even stronger. Once the players had finished laughing and joking in the locker room, Kaká moved the tactical board from the corner to the middle of the locker room. Upon seeing this, the Real Madrid players stopped talking and simultaneously adjusted their posture to look at Mourinho. Although our attack wasn't very smooth in the first half, we firmly controlled the initiative in midfield and took the lead. In the second half, we can slow down the pace a bit, control possession first, and then move Mallorca's flanks forward to assist their midfield in contesting possession. Cristiano and Angel, Di Maria, you can move inside and get closer to Sergio Canales. With Mourinho's clear and highly targeted tactical deployment, Real Madrid's tactical tone for the second half was quickly set. Looking at Mourinho, who stood confidently in front of the Real Madrid stars and spoke eloquently, Liang couldn't help but feel admiration. This is Mourinho. In terms of tactical deployment and adjustments, his ability is among the best in the football world. This was probably the time when Mourinho, who had just led Inter Milan to the treble, was at his most confident. He arrived in Madrid full of ambition and confidence, determined to bring Real Madrid back to its dominant position in football. The Real Madrid stars are now closely united around him, completely convinced, without the slightest complaint or slackening. Looking at this scene, who could have imagined that just 2 seasons later, Mourinho would be so disillusioned with Real Madrid that he would be abandoned by everyone? Leong sighed for a moment, but quickly banished these distracting thoughts from his mind. After all, while he could feel sentimental, these things were none of his concern. It's still uncertain whether he'll be at Real Madrid after 2 seasons. Even if he returns to Real Madrid and becomes a regular starter, the chaos in the Real Madrid dressing room will still have nothing to do with him. Like his teacher Alonso, the wisest choice is to not take sides, play well, and ignore everything else. Are there any other tactical issues? After explaining his tactical adjustments, Mourinho asked one last question. Canales seemed to need to determine the level of defensive commitment he would make in the second half, and he spoke with Mourinho for a while longer. Meanwhile, the other Real Madrid players who were no longer in trouble took advantage of the last bit of time to rest and recuperate. With neither side making any substitutions, the game quickly moved into the second half. As Leong watched Alonso, who had almost returned to his level after the game restarted, he felt increasingly at ease. In the second half, Real Madrid's main focus will be on controlling the tempo. It's not just about counter-attacking, at least assuming the players are good enough, Real Madrid can keep the battle for possession with their opponents around the center circle. If Mallorca wants to equalize, they will need to commit more players to winning possession. If the midfield is not strong enough, the wingers will inevitably have to be pulled to the midfield. At that time, Ronaldo and Di Maria will have their chance. Of course, this would require Mallorca to follow Real Madrid's game rhythm smoothly. Real Madrid's midfield must first withstand Mallorca's offensive onslaught, forcing them to pull their wingers into the central battle. This will put a lot of pressure on Leong defensively. However, for the defensive midfield pairing of Leong and Alonso, the defensive pressure is within their capacity to handle. Leong changed his defensive style from the first half, which involved anticipating and intercepting attacks in advance, and instead launched a wide-ranging sweeping attack in the midfield and backfield. Xabi Alonso, on the other hand, focuses more on covering and assisting in defense, and is responsible for sliding and intercepting defenders from behind. Don't be surprised that Leong doesn't seem like a sweeping, covering defensive midfielder. That's just because he didn't have to do that job many times in the past, not because he couldn't. From Real Madrid's youth teams at all levels to Real Betis, Leong was almost always the player who ran the most whenever he played. Just by looking at his running ability, you can tell that Leong is capable of providing extensive coverage and protection for the backcourt. Therefore, when Mourinho needs Leong to become a sweeping machine, he can smoothly change his style. With him providing wide-ranging, sweeping defensive coverage, Alonso's defensive pressure is significantly reduced compared to last season. Mallorca's players were also surprised by Leong's ability to run. Just moments before, Leong had assisted Arbeloa in completing a double team. Mallorca launched a comeback, but encountered close-range interference from Leong while advancing through the middle. The players who snatched the prize from Mallorca are practically going crazy. Leong may not be able to win the ball every time he comes out, but his omnipresence disrupts Mallorca's offensive progress. In addition, Alonso made a sliding tackle and timely defensive cover. Mallorca didn't even last 20 minutes before they had to pull their wingers up to push forward in large numbers. Real Madrid then launched a rapid counter-attack. Ronaldo didn't score in the first half, which is exactly when he's eager to make a move. He wanted to shoot, and the other Real Madrid attacking players naturally helped him by drawing away the Mallorca defenders. In the 67th minute of the second half, Ronaldo received a pass from Higuaín during a counter-attack, cut past Mallorca's right back, and unleashed a curling shot. Leong, being in the back, didn't see clearly, only that Ronaldo kicked the ball, and then his teammates in the attacking third cheered and celebrated a second time. Goal. Leong touched his head, somewhat uncertain. Then it definitely went in. Alonso laughed and beckoned Leong to join him in celebrating in the attacking third. Mourinho, sitting on the sidelines, clenched his fists, finally completely relieved. For the remainder of the match, Real Madrid gradually tightened their formation and switched to a purely defensive counter-attacking strategy. Cristiano Ronaldo's immense threat on the counter-attack prevented Mallorca from committing to a full-scale offensive push. When they launched a desperate counter-attack in the last 10 minutes, Mourinho decisively brought on Gago, holding on to their 2-goal lead until the very end. When the final whistle blew, countless Real Madrid fans beamed with joy. Mourinho has made a good start to his coaching career at Real Madrid. Leung also revealed a genuine, radiant smile. The system notification sound in his head brought him a huge surprise. It wasn't just because winning a La Liga match would earn him more system points than he expected. Also, because his rudimentary system, which hadn't really moved much in the past 6 years, was finally upgraded at this moment. Chapter 10, a two-pronged approach, paying for both in-app purchases and grinding, not aiming for the ultimate success, but simply achieving. First La Liga victory achieved, +1 win in European A-League, +5 base points, +10 points for each win. A-League mission system activated, A-League first win gift pack issued. Host has reached the second stage standard of Road to Football King. System update and upgrade initiated. Please check the system panel for update details in half an hour. Hearing the mechanical system announcement in his mind, which he would never have liked before, Leung felt a mix of excitement and relief, thinking, "I've finally waited for you to move again." It's no wonder he was so excited, because this system had only announced the lottery information on the first night after he transmigrated. That was 6 years ago. After that, whether it was his participation in Getafe's youth training selection in Spain or La Fabrica's successful transfer to Real Madrid, the system never again broadcast any reward information. What usable modules in the system could he find through self-exploration in the past? A talent fragment lottery machine with 4 levels, iron, bronze, silver, and gold. A low-level stamina recovery potion that automatically recharges every 10 days and cannot be accumulated if not used. A basic dream training course that can only be held once every 5 days, lasting 2 hours each time. And that's it. In the past, besides painstakingly grinding for ability points, Leung basically only had one opportunity to further improve his abilities, frantically accumulating points to unlock golden talent fragments. How difficult was it for him to accumulate 500 gold talent fragments to split once? Let me give you a simple example. When Leung was in Real Madrid's youth academy, he would receive a 0.1 point reward from the system for each training session he completed with high quality. Yes, you read that right, not 1 point, but 0.1 points. Later, when he successfully promoted to Real Madrid's third team, the points reward increased to 0.2. Upon entering Castilla, the price rose to 0.3. Now that he's joined Real Madrid's first team, his training reward has increased to 0.5 points per session. Well, it's still not great, but it's much better than the pitiful 0.1 points. He also gets rewards for playing matches, more than he does for regular training, but even though he played in the Segunda División last year, he only gets 3 points for winning a match. So don't think that Leung disgraced all the great transmigrators just because he only managed to get the opportunity to train at Royal Betis at the age of 19. It's not that he didn't want to become famous at a young age, it's just that he couldn't find any other way to improve his abilities. It took 6 years of painstaking effort to finally save up enough for a single chance to draw a golden fragment talent. Leung really didn't want to admit that his system was stingy, but it was indeed true. So when the system gave him a first win gift pack and announced an upcoming update, Leung was so happy and excited that he almost cried. 6 years. Do you know how I spent those 6 years? Leung suddenly lowered his head and uttered a sentence through gritted teeth, startling Ramos who was nearby. Fortunately, Leung spoke in Chinese in his excitement, so Ramos didn't understand. Even so, Ramos, who thought Leung was just too excited about winning his first La Liga match, still took the initiative to comfort his younger brother. Seeing that something was wrong, Alonso couldn't continue celebrating with Canales and quickly ran over to ask what had happened. "It's nothing, teacher. I was just a little excited. Sergio helped me calm down, and I'm fine now. Let's go celebrate." Leung didn't offer much explanation, instead going along with Ramos's words to save face. Seeing that Leung was indeed gradually calming down after his initial excitement, Alonso didn't suspect anything and pulled the two of them into the crowd thanking the Real Madrid fans who were on their away trip. "Cristiano. Can I get your autograph? I love every single one of you. Igor. Well done. Our lads did a fantastic job today. Promise me, we'll secure a solid victory when we return to our home ground next round. Madrid." In the stands where the away fans were gathered, thousands of fans wearing Real Madrid's white jerseys enthusiastically cheered for the Real Madrid players who came to thank the crowd. Leon also heard a lot of enthusiastic encouragement from them. "Little Lion, you did a fantastic job. You are the pride of Castile. Keep up the good work. Give me your autograph, Little Lion. I watched your game at the Alfredo Di Stefano Stadium last year. Well done, Little Lion. You'd better give Osasuna a good welcome next round too, your defense was fantastic." Leon was somewhat surprised, because he really didn't expect that a defensive midfielder like himself could receive such love and enthusiastic support from Real Madrid fans. However, he overlooked two major advantages he possessed. First, he is a product of Real Madrid's traditional youth academy. Second, he does indeed look very Real Madrid-esque. With his impeccable political background and sunny, handsome appearance, it's no wonder that Real Madrid fans have a favorable impression of him. This natural advantage makes him a highly sought-after asset by fans, no matter which club he joins. After a slightly shy smile, Leon finally generously signed autographs for several fans who were particularly enthusiastic towards him. He then returned to the locker room with his teammates to shower. Mallorca's away team locker room was rather basic and small, so Real Madrid's players could only get physiotherapy and relaxation after returning to their hotel. Mourinho brought Captain Casillas to the post-match press conference today. So the rest of the Real Madrid players packed their belongings and went back to the team bus to wait. Leon mingled with his teammates as he passed through the mixed zone. Facing the reporters vying to hand him microphones, Leon gave a perfunctory smile and a few greetings before quickly leaving the court. A group of reporters remained standing there, looking at each other in bewilderment, while Leon, as if nothing had happened, calmly boarded the bus under the astonished gazes of his teammates. After chatting with Alonso for a few minutes, Leon put on his headphones and closed his eyes for a short rest. Of course, in reality he only appeared to be resting with his eyes closed, but in fact Leon estimated the time and directly opened the Road to Football King panel in his mind. The updated Road to Football King system has added a shop and item draw templates compared to the original. The original usable functions have also been upgraded to some extent. For example, the stamina potion that needs to be recharged every 10 days has changed from the beginner level to the intermediate level, but it still cannot be accumulated. Whether you use it or not, it will be fully charged every 10 days. If you choose not to use it, it will remain in this state after being fully charged. The Dream Foundation training course, which was only offered once every 5 days, has been transformed into a new format of one training session plus one intra-team simulation match. Leon was most interested in the upgrade of this template, because he had already experimented with it during his Dream training course. His body can retain the effects of the training. However, the physical exhaustion was miraculously replenished by the system before he woke up, without causing any damage to his body. In other words, this was a freebie project that he was very satisfied with. Previously, I could get a free training session every 5 days without worrying about physical exertion. Now it's a free training session plus an intra-team scrimmages. Even if he only stays at Real Madrid for half a season, he'll still get to train with superstars like Cristiano Ronaldo, Di Maria, and Xabi Alonso, simulated by the system, for over 20 free games. With over 20 training matches where he could play with full energy without worrying about physical exhaustion, Leon felt that his growth could be accelerated once again. No doubt about it, liver, this absolutely requires liver. As for the upgraded talent fragment lottery machine, apart from the addition of a new, diamond-level, talent fragment card pool, there are no other new changes. However, Leon was not disappointed. Because although he now acquires system points much faster and in greater quantities than before. However, it's not easy to accumulate 500 points to open a golden fragment talent card again. After all, you only get 15 points for winning a La Liga match. He just checked and found that a draw would only give him 5 base points, while a loss would give him 0. Even though he can earn points by scoring goals and providing assists, don't forget that he is still a defensive midfielder. Scoring goals and providing assists are still too difficult for him at this stage. These points are purely the kind that you can see but can't actually obtain, and they don't have much computational value. Of course, if you win the championship with your team, you will also receive points. Winning a La Liga title would grant him 500 points, enough to draw a golden talent fragment card. A Copa del Rey winner earns 200 points, while the Europa League champion earns the same number of points as the league champion, 500. But the Champions League is different. A Champions League title is enough to bring Liang a reward of 1,000 points. The Diamond level talent fragment card can only be drawn once for 1,000 points, which made Liang extremely envious. However, after studying it for a while, Liang gradually calmed down and stopped fantasizing too much about which superstar's top talent fragment cards he might draw in the future. These things are still too far away for him. He hasn't even maxed out Makelele's defensive talent stats in his later years, and he just drew Valorant's short passing talent card. This is enough for him to invest more energy and time to digest. As the old saying goes, don't bite off more than you can chew. Liang is intelligent, but he also knows his own limitations. Since his system doesn't have the option to add points to directly increase his stats, he naturally has no choice but to take the steady path of evolution. Fortunately, he can spend money and grind at the same time. After raising the ceiling of talent, with hard work and perseverance, one can gradually climb to the top of the football world. He's not afraid of taking a long time, as long as there's hope and possibility. Compared to those young players who can't see a clear future or prospects during their development, he is now much happier. After a moment's thought, Liang turned his attention to the updated shop and item drawing templates. He doesn't have many points left, but that doesn't stop him from looking for the system items he wants most in advance. As a defensive midfielder, once you've unlocked a new level of physical fitness, how can you not also think of ways to combat injuries? So many excellent midfielders have been ruined by injuries. Especially in the defensive midfield position, he is consistently among the top 3 in the team in terms of physical strength and running in every game. Liang doesn't want to retire prematurely before becoming a top player. So he decided that no matter how many points it would cost, he would first find a way to maximize his resistance to injury and illness. He doesn't aspire to be the toughest defensive midfielder, but he must become the most resilient one. Overcome injuries and grow steadily. Go. That's it. Chapter 11 The rapidly improving backcourt king. Please add to your favorites and vote. Liang searched the mall for a while, expecting it to be filled with a dazzling array of props, but there were only 10 props for sale. He initially thought it was just a one-page display of props, but after looking closely, he realized, this shop template really only has this one page. What is this 5-language proficiency capsule, worth 500 points? Powerful leg guards worth 400 points. The Beatty boots are worth 800 points and increase shooting power by 3%. To be honest, everything is good. But Liang can neither afford it nor use it. He wanted to find some good quality items that were both cost-effective and could increase his damage resistance. But now it seems that this thing is a rare item even in the system. It's impossible to get it for a small price. Liang was a little disappointed, but he took a look at the item extraction module in the end. The card pool level and talent shards obtained from item draws are the same. There are 5 levels in total, from iron to diamond, and the price for drawing once for each level is the same for both. Liang glanced at the upper right corner of the system panel, where he had a pitiful 20 points left. In the end, he silently exited the item draw module. The only thing that can give Liang any comfort now is the free A-level League First Win gift pack that the system gave him. Opening his eyes, Liang silently found the meme-worthy audio recordings that Ronaldo and Benzema had made for him, and then pressed the play button. When those two familiar, awkward chants of, "May you be blessed with good luck, and may all the unlucky ones retreat," came through the headphones. Liang took a deep breath and opened the La Liga First Victory gift pack that was quietly emitting golden light in the system's storage box. After a brief flash of golden light, Liang focused his gaze and looked. Broken Powerful Leggings X1, Broken Lucky Wristband X1, Silver Rank Talent Fragment Card X1. 3 specific items emerged from the gift pack and were then placed in the system storage box. System, the surprise is that I'm giving you a free gift pack and 3 usable items. Don't say I'm stingy. Liang cupped his hands in greeting, brother, so this is what they call a surprise. While sitting on the bus, you can't gesticulate wildly or grin like an idiot. After all, he's already 19 years old, he should act like a mature and composed adult. But Liang couldn't help but silently stretch his lips into the widest possible smile. That feels so good. Even though they are incomplete props, the powerful shin guards and the lucky wristband sound exactly like the items Liang needs right now. Add to that a silver tier talent fragment card that requires 300 points to obtain. Liang can only say that his 6 years of hard work were worthwhile. After navigating the most challenging period of his youth training, the system successfully upgraded and began to take extra care of him. Perhaps this is also the first test that the Road to Football King system will give him. You've been given your golden talent. As long as you put in the hard work, you'll eventually be able to open the door to professional football. And if they can go further and play in one of the top 5 leagues, the system will give them generous rewards. If he slacks off during these years and ends up in a lower league, or even goes back to Asia to play comfortably, he will definitely not get the system's recognition. These props, which were practically given away for free, are no longer available. With that in mind, Liang didn't hesitate for long and directly clicked on the silver talent fragment card. This is the reward he deserves. He wants to see what other surprises the system has in store for him. A brief flash of silvery white light appeared. Then a black player wearing a Real Madrid white jersey appeared in front of Liang. Eschen 12-13 season strength talent fragment card, talent value, 87, max value 100, current strength ability value of the host is 80. This time, there were no lessons learned or insights, which didn't surprise Liang. It seems that the only benefit of silver tier talent fragment cards is an increase in the maximum talent value. To gain experience and insights into player acquisition, Liang believes that only obtaining gold and diamond level talent cards will offer a chance. Liang was also quite satisfied with Eschen's talent fragments. The fact that an African buffalo, past its prime and severely injured, still has a strength talent value of 87 is simply amazing. A difference of 7 points is enough for Liang to work hard for 1 or even 2 seasons. After all, for a defensive midfielder, a strength rating of 85 is more than enough. The key factors are stamina and endurance. The latter 2 factors determine the defensive midfielder's coverage area and attendance rate, 2 important indicators. Liang is stronger than Pepe in Real Madrid's first team, and his playing order will not change much. However, if his stamina and endurance improve further, then once Lassana recovers from her injury, Liang believes that her playing time will not be worse than Lassana's. Satisfied with his gains, Liang opened his eyes and took the initiative to discuss the follow-up training with Alonso. He has physical conditioning drugs to keep him going, and he may not even start in the next league match, so he plans to go back tomorrow afternoon and do recovery training directly at the Valdebebas training base. Alonso and his teammates will probably take a good rest during the 1 or 2 days off Mourinho has given them, and spend more time with their families. So barring any unforeseen circumstances, Liang will likely be practicing short passing alone or with other Real Madrid first-team players for the next 2 days. He needs Alonso's training advice, at least to follow the training path Alonso has taken, so that he can avoid wasting time as much as possible. So while most Real Madrid players were discussing where to relax after returning to Madrid tonight or tomorrow, Liang and Alonso were already quietly communicating about training matters. Cristiano Ronaldo, sitting in the row behind Alonso and Liang, raised an eyebrow at that moment. His gaze seemed to be casually looking at the scenery outside the window, but his ears were, coincidentally, as close as possible to the side of Liang and Alonso. After Liang and Alonso finished their conversation, Ronaldo leaned back in his seat as if nothing had happened. A short while later, Mourinho and Casillas returned to the bus together. After head coach Mourinho announced a 2-day holiday, the Real Madrid team bus slowly started amidst cheers and enthusiastic applause from the players, heading towards their hotel on Mallorca. The next day, around noon, the Real Madrid players, who had all slept for a full 12 hours, leisurely got up, washed, and packed their things. Around 2 p.m., Liang and his teammates returned to the Valdebebas training base. While the other Real Madrid players finished their medical examinations and drove away from the training ground, Liang stayed behind. After having a pre-training nutritious meal and resting until 3:30, Liang, accompanied by several Real Madrid Youth Academy players who volunteered and were found by Karanka, stepped onto the training field. His short passing drills are actually quite tedious. After a half-hour basic warm-up, he needs to accurately pass the ball to the constantly moving youth players amidst a bunch of obstacles. Meanwhile, the training coach will bring out a sparring mat and engage in close-quarters sparring with him, trying to simulate the intensity of a regular training match. The intensity of the exercise was considerable, and Liang's physical exertion was constantly increasing, but he was enjoying it and showed no signs of pain. On the contrary, he enjoyed this painful process. Meanwhile, at the training base that he couldn't see, Cristiano Ronaldo, who had driven away and then returned, was looking at the training ground where Liang was training with a look of surprise. If there were fans watching nearby, they probably wouldn't notice the changes in Liang. However, Ronaldo, who had been training with Liang for some time, clearly saw Liang's progress. This young man, who used to be so diligent and focused on defense, is now actually practicing short passes to break through pressing and interception quite well. Cristiano Ronaldo's interest grew even stronger. Today, he's going to see what surprises this rapidly improving backcourt king still has to offer. Moreover, compared to training, with Cristiano Ronaldo around, Valdebebas' title of Liver King is something no one should have any unrealistic fantasies about. Today, he wanted to personally prove to Liang that he was the most outstanding player in Real Madrid's training sessions. So arrogant. I initially refused to read chapter 13, but his words were too sweet. You can put more power into your passes. When facing pressure, before you and your teammates have fully developed a rapport, you can pass the ball with more force when the distance exceeds 3 meters. At this time, safety is more important than comfort. Don't worry about your teammates not being able to receive it, this is Real Madrid. Wiping the fine beads of sweat from his forehead, Cristiano Ronaldo personally went down onto the field and practiced short passing with Liang for half an hour before giving Liang his pointers. Upon hearing this, Liang smiled and nodded, I still have many shortcomings. If you think there's anything I haven't done well in training, please point it out promptly. Thank you so much. Liang watched as Ronaldo scratched his head, looking smug and as if it were nothing, and didn't find the other man arrogant at all. Perhaps at first glance, Ronaldo might seem a bit aloof, but once you get to know him, Liang can sense that while Ronaldo is incredibly persistent on the training ground and the field, he is not difficult to get along with in private. It can be said that Ronaldo is arrogant, even conceited, stubborn and proud. When he trains, his competitive spirit is so strong that it can put tremendous pressure on the players around him. But he's also very childlike and doesn't put on airs with his teammates. If you need help, just ask him, and he'll readily agree. It's not actually difficult to get along with someone who is stubborn but likes to be straightforward. Once you understand his temperament and approach, just follow his lead. If he were truly difficult to get along with, Ronaldo would come over and childishly compare training hours with him, and after giving him a scathing critique of his training, he would be willing to offer guidance and advice. The truly difficult players to get along with, not to mention those who can barely be compared to Ronaldo, are those who are barely considered stars and probably wouldn't even bother with a young player like Liang. I'm going to practice free kicks and shooting. Do you want to come with me? Perhaps it was because Liang's kind words made Ronaldo feel good that he generously invited Liang to train with him. Liang was very tempted, but after hesitating for a moment, he shook his head. Cristiano Ronaldo's smile froze. I know my situation, Cristiano. I'm not very talented in free kicks and shooting. Even with your guidance, the best free kick player in the league right now, I'm afraid I still won't be able to grasp the knack. Besides, I can't keep taking up your extra training time. We're all counting on you to score lots of goals this season and lead us to defeat Barcelona. Under these circumstances, how can I selfishly keep taking up your training time? As soon as Liang spoke, the slight displeasure that had just risen in Ronaldo's heart vanished instantly. Listen to this. He's the best free kick taker in the league right now, and the hope that the entire Real Madrid team can count on. Look at Liang's incredibly earnest and sincere face. Do you dare say that what he said wasn't what he truly felt? Cristiano Ronaldo couldn't quite contain his broad smile, and very generously waved to Liang, insisting on staying to practice short passing and pressing techniques with Liang for another 15 minutes. Liang was finally completely satisfied. After the training session ended, he repeatedly thanked Ronaldo before starting his next basic long pass drill. Ronaldo was also very comfortable, and didn't notice anything amiss. Because Liang speaks in a pleasant and natural way, and his sincere eyes clearly show that he is not trying to please anyone. He said, I'm Real Madrid's only star player and the best free kick taker in football. A voice kept echoing in my mind, Ronaldo finds Liang more and more pleasing to the eye. When practicing free kicks, his confidence was much higher than usual, and he seemed to have gained a bit more strength. Leong, standing on the training field next to Cristiano Ronaldo's, listened to the constant muffled bang, bang sounds and subconsciously shrank his neck. What is talent? That wild power in that shot and that effortless control over that power, that's pure talent. Leong was genuinely envious of Cristiano Ronaldo practicing the knuckleball, but he simply didn't have the talent for it, so he had to reluctantly decline Ronaldo's offer. With the insights gained from Valorant and the increase in his talent ceiling, short passing is the skill area where he needs to invest the most time and effort to practice. Accurate long passes are an almost essential skill for an excellent defensive midfielder, and he cannot afford to lack them. The two necessary training sessions combined basically took up all of his extra practice time, leaving him no time to learn anything else. However, you can't learn free kicks, but you can observe Ronaldo's shooting characteristics and power generation during training breaks. With the occasional exclamations of amazement from Leong, Ronaldo trained with even more enthusiasm, making the fitness coach's lips twitch as he watched. Although La Liga will have a 12-day break after the first round of the league, players must ensure they get enough rest in preparation for the upcoming team training sessions. The strength and conditioning coach knew that these two were in good physical condition on the training field, but he still forced them to stop after each of them had done an extra hour and a half of training. Just kidding, if they haven't recovered their fitness by the time they train together in 2 days, then Mourinho will have to use his hairdryer treatment on him, their fitness coach. This is why he stayed at the training base today to supervise Leong's training. Can we stay in the weight room for another hour? Can we go back indoors and practice leg explosiveness for a while longer? Leong and Cristiano Ronaldo almost simultaneously requested to go back to the training base's weight room to play for a while longer. The strength and conditioning coach covered his forehead and then firmly refused. However, while the weight room is off limits, the physiotherapy area and swimming pool are accessible. Seeing that the coach refused so decisively, the two had no choice but to obediently go to the physiotherapy area first. It was almost 5 p.m., and the injured players who had received physiotherapy earlier had all left, leaving only Pepe waiting for Ronaldo in the physiotherapy room. Pepe was also surprised to see Leong and Ronaldo walking in together, chatting and laughing. But after greeting Leong and chatting for about 10 minutes, Pepe finally understood why Leong had won Ronaldo's favor so quickly. This kid has a really nice way of speaking. When Pedro Perez heard Leong praising him as a pillar of Real Madrid and a true defensive core, he couldn't help but laugh, his face crinkling with smiles. After finishing their physical therapy and splashing around in the pool, the three of them finally parted ways in the parking lot. Are you coming to practice together again tomorrow? Before leaving, Leong asked Ronaldo a question out of curiosity. Cristiano Ronaldo remembered that he had promised Irina Shayk he would accompany her to an exhibition the next day, and his first instinct was to refuse. But looking at Leong's sincere face, he recalled the heartfelt words Leong had said to him earlier that day. With a flicker of his heart and a nod of his head, Cristiano Ronaldo broke into a smile. Come. Chapter 14. Don't rush forward, be a survivor. Mourinho arrived at the Valdebebas training ground early on September 1st. Today is the day Real Madrid's first-team players who didn't participate in national team matches resumed joint training. He and the coaching staff needed to arrive early to prepare. As a well-known, all-rounder, coach in the football world, Mourinho takes daily training very seriously. From the very first day in Valdebebas, Mourinho showed meticulous concern for everything from the quality of the pitch, training facilities, jerseys and boots, to even the condition of the lockers in the dressing rooms. He speaks frankly about the club's shortcomings, and while he is meticulous in management, he also prefers to communicate directly with his staff. Therefore, he brought unprecedented pressure to many staff members at the base. However, in return, the entire base has indeed improved its operational efficiency in preparation for war. However, Mourinho usually presents a serious image to the public. At this moment, he was in his office, looking at the report on the duration and specific training sessions of Leong and Ronaldo with a mixture of joy and helplessness. It's not that he doesn't like his players training hard. Extra training is a good thing, it shows that the players have higher expectations and ambitions for themselves. But right now, Leong and Ronaldo are completely overdoing it with extra training. This caused him to experience a happy trouble, despite his immense satisfaction. However, directly dismissing their actions would be inappropriate. Mourinho didn't want to dampen their enthusiasm for extra training. After carefully considering his words, Mourinho called the two who had arrived at the training base first that morning into his office for a patient discussion. Praise should definitely outweigh lecturing when it comes to Ronaldo. Mourinho praised Ronaldo to his heart's content and emphasized Ronaldo's central role in his tactical system before subtly suggesting that Ronaldo should get more rest. Mourinho was much more direct and relaxed with Leong, speaking in a very relaxed and straightforward manner. "You're still young, don't overdo it. You have a place and opportunities here, take it slow, don't hurt yourself. Have you been under a lot of pressure lately? You have my number, you can call me if you're feeling down sometimes." Looking at Mourinho, who was rambling on and on, Leong listened patiently to his advice and couldn't help but feel a little touched. He didn't know why the head coach had become increasingly kind to him lately, but he could sense Mourinho's genuine care for him. The training environment remains rigorous and demanding. But privately, Mourinho does care about his life and development. As for pressure, Leong has always viewed it from two perspectives. He will definitely stand up to those who deliberately put pressure on you and try to annoy you. However, if the other party is putting pressure on you with great expectations and goodwill, hoping that Meifu will break through her limits and grow in one step, Leong will gladly accept it. Despite having the soul of a middle-aged man in a young body, he still possesses the ability to distinguish right from wrong and the capacity for patience. Mourinho was very satisfied to see that Leong listened to his advice without any impatience. He admires Leong's increasingly evident competitive talent and, even more so, his maturity beyond his years. Young players who grasp things so quickly are truly rare. In terms of talent, Leong is nowhere near as good as Balotelli, whom he coached at Inter Milan for 2 years. But if Mourinho had to choose, he would only choose to develop Leong. For him, talent is certainly important. But intellectual maturity, harmonious communication, and unwavering will are even more valuable qualities. Go ahead and prepare well for the morning training. You can come to me anytime if you need anything. Don't push yourself too hard during training, and remember to go to the physiotherapy room for your checkup on time. Mourinho patted Leong on the shoulder one last time, smiling broadly as he saw him out of the office. After the brief incident in the morning, the dozen or so players from Real Madrid's first team noticed that their head coach seemed to be smiling more than usual today. Of course, once the training sessions, which remained at the same intensity, officially began, Mourinho's smile was no better than the devil's. Because no South American countries called up their players for friendly matches during this international break, Di Maria and Marcelo, who had been a little too relaxed during their 2-day holiday, almost got their knees kicked in the practice. While the other players finished their morning training and began to rest, the two of them, with long faces, still had to complete the additional 5-kilometer run as a penalty. After receiving this negative example, the other Real Madrid players also deeply understood a principle. That means Mourinho won't care what they did or how crazy they had during their holidays. But they must have their own sense of right and wrong. Otherwise, Di Maria and Marcelo this morning could be the same players next time. During the intensive training camp, Real Madrid players have quickly made good adjustments to their physical and mental state. Khedira, who had already recovered from his injury and returned to the team, may be feeling threatened about his starting position. He didn't report to the German national team this time, but stayed at the Valdebebas training base and trained actively with his club teammates. To be fair, his performance in training was quite good. Although he still likes to make forward runs from time to time, his defense is indeed more proactive than when he first joined Real Madrid. A healthy Khedira is full of energy and can also cover a large area of the midfield and defense. Regardless of the actual effect, it looks quite convincing. If only he would focus more on defense and doing the dirty work. Given his current strength and physical attributes, Leong and Las Diera can only be ranked after him. Even if Mourinho has high hopes for Leong, at this stage he still needs to prioritize transforming Khedira. Leong may become the kind of top defensive midfielder he likes in the future. But once Khedira gets his mind on, Real Madrid will now have one of the toughest double-pivot midfield pairings in all of Europe. Therefore, after weighing the options, the coaching staff decided to place Khedira in the first team where he trains with more of the key players. On September 9, Xabi Alonso, Ramos, and other first-team players who had participated in national team matches returned to the team. The starting lineups for Real Madrid and Osasuna in the next round of La Liga are almost finalized. On the evening of September 11, at the Bernabeu Stadium, Leon, Di Maria, and Canales sat on the bench, covering their mouths and discussing something. Mourinho was very dissatisfied with the game situation, which was struggling to break the deadlock and almost allowed Osasuna to steal the win. By the 42nd minute of the first half, Real Madrid still had no way to break down Osasuna, and the score remained 0-0. Real Madrid fans at the Bernabeu Stadium made their dissatisfaction very clear. Boos. From sporadic sounds to widespread coverage. Cristiano Ronaldo looked very unhappy. Benzema put his hands on his hips, glanced at a dead man whose ability to track back was almost zero, and ultimately did not complain. Alonso was panting in the backfield, trying to calm himself down. He doesn't like to complain, but Khedira's forward run and subsequent defensive retreat were so poor that he almost lost his temper and started yelling at him. It was another match where the team had to both organize the offense and shoulder the heavy responsibility of defending. He wasn't against helping Khedira clean up her messes. But this German kid always needed him to cover for him, and he didn't seem to have any accuracy when he swung his legs on the offensive end. It would be better to focus on defense first, stifle Osasuna's counterattacks, and then try their attacking style of making late runs. That way, everyone can play more easily. Unlike the previous round where they played steadily and confidently, most Real Madrid players had a terrible time this round of the league. Alonso, Ramos, and Carvalho faced more direct attacks from opposing forwards, resulting in fewer attacking opportunities and possession for the forwards. Thinking of this, aside from Khedira and a certain dead man who didn't play in the last league match, Real Madrid stars all seem to recall the last league match, when the young player shouted from the backfield, urging them to press aggressively, while he himself would cover for interceptions and track back. Having a teammate in the backcourt who is willing and able to do the dirty work is so reassuring. Cristiano Ronaldo muttered a couple of irritated words. He started to dislike his German teammate who often made forward runs. He wants to kill the little Lion King. Chapter 15. A dramatically different second half, Liang's role. Mourinho ultimately did not directly substitute Khedira in the final stages of the first half. He strives for complete control over the team and dislikes his players deviating from his tactical intentions. But he's not so straightforward as to be foolish. However, giving Khedira a final shred of leniency doesn't mean Mourinho won't punish the German midfielder. When the referee blew the whistle for halftime, Mourinho called on Leong and the starting players to go into the locker room together. What this scene signifies is already clear to Mourinho. Real Madrid's home fans are already discussing it extensively. After Real Madrid starting players returned to the locker room, Mourinho gestured for Marcelo, the last player to enter, to close the door. Leong had a bad feeling. Sure enough, Mourinho, in a fit of rage, directly criticized each of the starting players he had documented in the first half. In the end, apart from Casillas and Xabi Alonso, all the other Real Madrid starters were subjected to a barrage of criticism. I know that some of the people I called out just came back from playing for the national team 3 days ago. You haven't had enough rest, and you haven't adjusted your form yet. Okay, all these excuses can be justified as reasons for your poor performance today. But I still have to say, the team representing Real Madrid is Osasuna. Do you know what that means? That means if we are held to a draw or even defeated by them today, then you, me, all of us will be on the front page of every sports newspaper in Spain tomorrow. Tell me, do you want to see headlines like this? Do you want to see Osasuna deliver a humiliating defeat to you at the Bernabeu? Mourinho's provocation made Real Madrid stars feel ashamed and angry. They shouted, absolutely not. Loss to Osasuna at home at the Bernabeu? That would be a disgraceful disaster. If Barcelona's players and fans find out the news, they will surely ridicule Real Madrid mercilessly. After all, they couldn't even defeat Osasuna, who finished 12th in La Liga last season and were only 7 points ahead of the relegation zone. How dare they say they can overthrow Barcelona? Therefore, Real Madrid players absolutely cannot tolerate such a defeat. Seeing that the players' anger had been ignited and their morale was high, Mourinho softened his tone slightly. He began to explain the tactical adjustments for the second half. Real Madrid's attack in the first half seemed lively, but the possession was too scattered and the attacking routes were not concentrated. Coupled with the imbalance on the defensive end, Osasuna seized the opportunity to launch several counterattacks, which further affected the intensity and efficiency of Real Madrid's attack. Therefore, they must take the initiative and seize the initiative at the beginning of the second half to suppress Osasuna's attack. The main attacking route was undoubtedly placed on the left flank where Ronaldo and Marcelo were positioned. As for the issue of defensive imbalance, Mourinho glanced at Khedira, who was silent at the moment, and a hint of helplessness flashed in his eyes. He just didn't understand why Khedira kept thinking about his penis. It's not that we don't want him to participate in the offense, but the number of times he attacks and his desire to do so far exceed the coaching staff's expectations. If you say there's no other choice, then you can only make Alonso do more dirty work and work harder. Who can blame them when Alonso is so capable and has such excellent tactical execution? But now Mourinho has a choice. His primary motivation for requesting the signing of Khedira was to free up Alonso as much as possible. Alonso is the team's playmaker, not someone who just covers for Khedira in defense. Mourinho is optimistic about Khedira's abilities and potential for improvement. But his patience has its limits. No matter how well you perform in training, if you can't deliver results in a match, it's no good. With that in mind, Mourinho directly named Leon. Bring on Khedira in the second half. Sammy, Khedira, you can rest for a bit, watch the game and get back into form. Khedira, pay attention, at the start of the second half, you must help Axabai solidify the midfield defense, even if it means fouling. We can't let Osasuna's counterattacks easily get through our midfield flanks again. Mourinho quickly and concisely outlined Liang's tactical tasks. Liang nodded repeatedly, and after listening, he confirmed it again before stating that he had no questions. After Mourinho finished explaining the overall tactical adjustments and signaled to the players to take a short rest, the atmosphere in the locker room seemed to gradually become more lively. Liang checked his equipment. In particular, after checking that the broken shin guards and broken lucky wristbands were properly worn, he took the lead in jogging out of the player tunnel to warm up in advance. At the start of the second half, Movistar's La Liga commentator immediately noticed Real Madrid's substitution. There's no other reason than Liang's sunny and handsome face simply attracted too much attention from the live broadcast camera. Many Spanish girls watching the game with their families on TV were instantly mesmerized. It happened very quickly. She covered her mouth, widened her eyes, and exclaimed in surprise all in one smooth motion. But before these girls could properly appreciate Liang's handsome appearance, Liang himself shattered their filter of good looks with a fierce sliding tackle. As it turns out, good looks don't necessarily make someone an elegant attacker, they can also be an ordinary midfield killer. But Liang is quite satisfied with his current position. The opposing striker might be trying to break through his defense because he looks harmless, and he felt he needed to make the opponent think straight. A decisive and fierce tackle forced Osasuna striker Comunas to jump awkwardly and fall flat on his face. Liang, who retained possession of the ball, quickly poked it to his mentor Xabi Alonso, who was standing beside him, using his toe. Just 6 seconds into the second half, Liang made his first decisive defensive play and won back possession from an Osasuna player. Thanks to his regaining of possession, Real Madrid finally launched another threatening and fluid fast counterattack. Even though Benzema's shot ultimately missed the target, Real Madrid fans at the Bernabeu still happily applauded him. However, the Osasuna players were somewhat skeptical. 3 minutes later, they came back and tried to push forward quickly down the flanks again. As Monreal crossed the halfway line, he quickly passed the ball to his midfield teammate Nkunum. Nkunum also made a tacit pass to Arbeloa, who was lunging forward, attempting to play a simple 1-2 pass with Monreal on the wing. But this time, while the Monreal players made it past the goalkeeper, the ball was successfully intercepted by a figure who had anticipated the move and rushed out in advance. Liang. The crucial second defensive play. Wow! A beautiful diagonal short pass. Soriano didn't touch the ball. Alonso, he sent a long pass. With Movistar's commentator speaking at an incredibly fast pace, Real Madrid's transition from defense to attack was also incredibly quick. Liang intercepted the ball, quickly connected with Alonso, and then Alonso delivered a threatening long pass. In a few swift passes, Ronaldo, who had accelerated down the left flank, had a perfect opportunity to get to the byline. This is completely different from the Real Madrid team in the first half, where the attacking spearheads were scattered and the balance between offense and defense was off. The fans who watched the game knew very well who brought about this significant change. They looked towards Real Madrid's backfield, towards the young man who had miraculously improved Real Madrid's offensive and defensive rhythm with his defense and steady short passes. Was the performance dazzling? That's still not necessarily true. But he has already begun to faintly and continuously shine. He proved his worth in his own way. His name is Leon. A little lion from La Fabrica. Don't be stingy with your expectations for him. He deserves it. Chapter 16. How can he not be considered a young talent? Some midfielders can deliver accurate and steady long passes, but in pursuing precision too much, the ball's speed will inevitably be slower, making them less suitable for counterattacks. Some midfielders, on the other hand, are too focused on counterattacking speed, resulting in somewhat rough long passes that inevitably reduce their accuracy. However, these two seemingly irreconcilable contradictions are almost invisible in Xabi Alonso's long passes. Because he can deliver long passes that are both fast and accurate. It emphasizes the word ruthless. Less than 5 minutes into the second half, Alonso, freed from his heavy defensive duties, delivered two accurate and powerful long passes on the counterattack. Although Benzema had his moment of joy, Ronaldo's final cross from the byline was thwarted by Osasuna's centre-back, and Real Madrid are still unable to break the deadlock. But any knowledgeable viewer could see that Real Madrid had figured out their attacking strategy for the second half. With Alonso able to focus on organizing the attack, Real Madrid's offensive momentum gradually improved. With no shortage of offensive sparks, scorers, or superstars with exceptional individual abilities. If Real Madrid can maintain a good balance between attack and defense and manage possession effectively, they should have no problem dominating a mid to lower tier La Liga team at home. Mourinho nodded to himself and resumed his conversation with Karanka, occasionally scribbling in his tactical notebook. This was Real Madrid's second league match of the new season, and it exposed quite a few problems. Mourinho's tactical changes to the team are still being fine-tuned. There are certainly things he's not satisfied with, but overall, Mourinho still likes the Real Madrid squad left to him by his predecessor, Pellegrini. Whether they are forwards or defenders, most of Real Madrid's current players fit his team-building philosophy. Xabi Alonso is his most satisfying midfield core player. Only when defending the defensive midfield position can he breathe a sigh of relief. I'd say I'm barely satisfied, but if I say I'm not satisfied, then I have a lot to say. At least until Lassana Diarra returns from injury, it seems that Mourinho can only truly rely on the 19-year-old Leon. Mourinho will not start Khedira again until Khedira changes his mindset and is determined to take on defensive responsibilities. As for the issue of Liang's lack of competition experience and ability, take your time and watch it. At least one thing Mourinho felt he had nothing to worry about. That's Liang's mindset. He used to be cautious in using young players, largely because he couldn't trust their ability to withstand pressure and regulate their emotions. But with Leon, he doesn't need to lower his attitude and standards in training and competition. Leon can withstand the pressure of these expectations, and this kid's mentality is better than many so-called mature players. If Mourinho was pleasantly surprised by Liang's performance in the first league match, and had even higher expectations for Liang's future, then now, he has made up his mind to give Liang more opportunities. Because this kid is a true defensive genius, it's worth the gamble. Teacher. Move aside. In the 56th minute of the second half, Alonso was preparing to block his position and challenge Osasuna striker Aranda for a header. Then a familiar shout came from behind him, and Alonso instinctively moved aside. Amid the gasps of tens of thousands of fans at the Bernabeu, Leon leaped off the ground and collided violently with Aranda. Leon, at 1.83 meters tall, is shorter than Aranda, who is 1.86 meters tall, and weighs 78 kilograms, which is less than Aranda's 84 kilograms. But he still managed to win a point and powerfully headed the ball back into Osasuna's half. Because he has a better judgment of where the ball will land, a stronger jumping ability, and his core strength is just as good. In terms of heading ability, his talent ceiling is 88, and he has been practicing diligently over the years. It would be strange if he didn't excel. After Aranda landed, he couldn't help but take a few more glances at Leon, who was running to the other side. He couldn't help but admire how strong Real Madrid's youth training system is. This guy is only 19 years old and he's already proficient in everything from high tackles to low tackles, and his fighting ability is also quite strong. He'd be worth at least 10 million euros on the market. You have to admit, Real Madrid truly lives up to their reputation. They can pull out any young midfielder and still have this level of skill. You have to admire them. Aranda sighed, unaware that Leão was actually Castilla's best young defensive midfielder in recent years. Otherwise, Real Betis wouldn't have asked Real Madrid to loan him out as an emergency measure. It can only be said that Leão's previous playing style was simple and low-key, so much so that even after playing in the Spanish second division for half a year and helping Real Betis achieve promotion, he did not attract much attention from the Spanish media. Aranda's unfamiliarity and misunderstanding of Leão also applies to most Spanish fans at this moment. Although they weren't very familiar with Leão, they all understood. If Leão can maintain this level of consistent performance in the subsequent league matches, he will soon be on the verge of making a name for himself. It's unrealistic to expect a defensive midfielder to become a star in his debut season in La Liga. But if Leão can establish himself at Real Madrid, his future development and reputation will not be too bad. With great interest and scrutiny, more and more La Liga fans are paying attention to Leão's performance. During this evening slot, when only the Real Madrid vs Osasuna match was being broadcast live, the viewership in Spain was quite impressive. Looking around the world, countless fans have witnessed Leão's consistent performance at this moment. Many Real Madrid fans also proactively looked up information about Leão after the last league match. He's a product of our own youth academy, and he's a defensive midfielder, which is quite rare in football right now. He seems to be playing well, so we definitely need to give him our full support. Although there may be fewer things to brag about, so what? There are already enough young talents in the football world. In comparison, down-to-earth and low-key young defensive players like Leão are becoming increasingly rare. Well, things are valued for their scarcity. Just as a large number of Real Madrid fans were racking their brains to figure out how to praise their youth academy players. In the live broadcast, Leão once again correctly predicted the route Osasuna's midfielders would take to pass the ball forward. After intercepting the ball, he did not decisively pass it across to Xabi Alonso as he usually does. Instead, he suddenly took a step forward with the ball and delivered a bold, low, powerful through ball. Di Maria instinctively made a forward run on the right wing, and unexpectedly, Leão passed the ball to him in time. This unexpected scene caused countless Real Madrid fans in the stadium to excitedly stand up from their seats. Di Maria is not offside. He has already created an excellent position for a half breakaway. Meanwhile, in front of their televisions, many Real Madrid fans raised their arms and cheered, shaking off the little worries that had been on their minds. What things are valued for their rarity? Look at the talent Leão has displayed in that instant. How can a defensive midfielder who excels in both offense and defense not be considered a young talent? Chapter 17. Either a freak or a genius. Di Maria is not offside. He's making a quick run down the right flank, and Higuaín in the middle is already raising his hand for the ball. Movistar's commentator spoke incredibly fast, and as Di Maria was about to enter the Osasuna penalty area, his passion was aroused. Di Maria doesn't seem to be planning to pass the ball yet. Although his shooting angle is currently quite tight, there's still a theoretical possibility that he could get a shot off. Osasuna's defenders quickly moved towards their left half of the defensive zone, and goalkeeper Ricardo was ready to block the near post. But just as Osasuna were about to close in on Di Maria, he unusually delivered a cross with his right foot. Mid-lane. Di Maria instinctively yelled. However, the ball did not drop rapidly in the middle of the penalty area, but went straight towards the far post. There, Ronaldo almost instantly overtook Osasuna's right-back Juanfran. With lightning speed and an overwhelming attack, Cristiano Ronaldo's header left Osasuna goalkeeper Ricardo helpless. The moment the ball hit the net, the Portuguese superstar spread his arms wide and roared as he sprinted near the baseline. His knee-slide celebration towards the corner flag seemed to release all the frustration he had accumulated in the first half. At least when Leão arrived to join the celebration, all Ronaldo could do for him was smile. The other Real Madrid players also no longer showed the anxious and frustrated look they had at the end of the first half. "You've got guts, kid. Well done." Cristiano Ronaldo put his arm around Leão's neck, patted Leão's chest, and gave him a knowing look. But that smiling face made Liang's eyes twitch. Okay, Liang admits that there was an element of gambling involved in that through ball he just made. Even though they've been learning to seize opportunities and organize attacks for some time now. His short passing ability, which he had been practicing more, began to slowly improve again. But to say that he can now skillfully deliver threatening through balls in a match is nonsense. Occasionally, when he sees an opportunity, such as when Osasuna's midfielders are not defending in time, he might take a gamble and try to make a through pass forward, which is acceptable. For the vast majority of other matches, he could only focus on doing his job well. Cristiano Ronaldo has been training with him a lot lately, so he knows his current skill level and understands that his through ball just now was most likely a gamble. However, Liang was not annoyed. There has to be a first time for everything, right? At least his first through pass in a professional match was successful. It's a pity that Di Maria didn't get to take the shot himself, otherwise, he might have gotten his first assist in La Liga. Liang was still lamenting that his assist had gone to Di Maria. Mourinho and Kaká, who had watched the entire goal from the sidelines, were already feeling quite dizzy and were about to have their perception of Liang's talent overturned once again. Was he guessing? It was definitely a fluke. Well, or rather, there was an element of luck involved, but he definitely seized the opportunity when Osasuna's midfield was out of position just now, and his short passing ability seems to have really improved again. Do you think it's possible, Edo, that the youth training coaches at all levels of our club don't have a very good eye for talent? That's impossible. It's somewhat understandable if one or two youth coaches have problems, but it's impossible for the coaches of the third team in Castilla to be incompetent, right? I think that's unlikely too. So, if this kid isn't a freak, he's a prodigy. Mourinho calmly made his judgment. Compared to Kaká, who is still somewhat unpredictable, Mourinho was able to quickly accept the fact that Liang's performance was amazing. There's nothing Mourinho can do about it. Having coached Balotelli for 2 years, Mourinho now sees Liang's transformation as quite normal. If a reasonable explanation must be given, it is that Liang may have gradually gotten a second chance after training with Real Madrid's first team. This situation is rare in the football world, but it does happen. Especially for young players like Liang, whose basic skills are already solid. Once they have an epiphany, as long as the quality of their training and matches is up to par, and they work hard enough, it's not impossible for them to reveal new talents. However, Mourinho believes that a more detailed observation of Liang in subsequent training and matches is needed to determine the specifics. After a brief discussion, Mourinho and Kaká shifted the focus back to winning the match. With a solid midfield defense, Real Madrid can naturally focus more on attacking. With this goal in hand, Osasuna, who were trailing, had no choice but to push forward and make more attacking attempts. Mourinho isn't just about playing counter-attacking football, he prefers controlling the tempo of the game. Osasuna hesitated, unsure whether to push forward and attack. It's okay, there's nothing to worry about. Real Madrid is making the choice for them, just forcefully increase the speed. After Di Maria replaced a certain dead man, he was able to play both in the middle and on the right wing, where he could break down Osasuna's fullbacks one-on-one. Benzema, who played on the right wing for 45 minutes in the first half, moved to the center to partner with Higuaín as a two-striker formation. With Cristiano Ronaldo on the left wing, Real Madrid will now have 4 attacking players in the front line, all of whom are individually strong and capable of making runs. As a result of this increased pace, Real Madrid found themselves increasingly comfortable with their game, and their fast attacks became more and more threatening, while Osasuna struggled to keep up on both ends of the pitch. Liang felt that his defensive and interception duties were becoming increasingly easier. Stand firm in your positions, honestly cover for the midfield and forward lines, and then witness Real Madrid's winning goal in the 74th minute of the second half, scored by Higuaín. Liang felt that he hadn't even felt physically tired yet, and the team once again achieved a narrow 2-0 shutout victory. When the referee finally blew the final whistle, and the other Real Madrid players and fans happily celebrated their 2 consecutive league wins in the new season, Liang listened to the system announcement in his mind with immense satisfaction. Second La Liga victory of the 2010-2011 season, plus 2 wins in UEFA League A, plus 5 base points, plus 10 points for a win. As Liang watched the score on the system panel jump upwards, his smile grew even brighter. Meanwhile, Mourinho, who was smiling at Leong on the sidelines, was pondering how to have another one-on-one talk with Leong. Whether he's a freak or a prodigy, Mourinho is determined to train this once-in-a-lifetime dream girl. Chapter 18, The Little Lion Who Turns Enemies into Friends, the low-key and versatile Little Prince. 2-2-0 victories, 2 consecutive wins at the start of the league season. Although the scores and the performances were not particularly stunning, Real Madrid fans have begun to recognize and accept Mourinho's Real Madrid. As long as we can win, and win consistently, we can tolerate temporary setbacks on the field. Within Real Madrid, the 2 victories have further solidified the players' recognition of Mourinho's coaching abilities. At least in this round of league matches, Mourinho's decisive adjustments at halftime satisfied Real Madrid's stars. This isn't because they have a problem with Khedira being substituted or with some dead man. If a player hasn't fully integrated into the team and hasn't yet achieved good synergy, then failing to execute the tactics is simply not an option. Leong is currently a better fit as a defensive midfielder to partner with Alonso, and let's not spout nonsense like people have a better impression of the young lion in private. The most fundamental reason is that everyone felt more comfortable and at ease playing when Leong was on the field. If Khedira is willing to focus on defense and does a better job than Leong, then everyone will be able to quickly accept the fact that Khedira has regained his starting position. This is professional football. Everyone here is a professional player, and they rise to the top through their own abilities. This is how it should be. After this round of league matches, Real Madrid's first-team players will not have a holiday. After a good night's rest, Real Madrid's first team resumed their daily training on the afternoon of September 12. Because in 4 days, they will be playing their first group stage match of the new Champions League season at home. The opponent is Ajax, whose strength is not particularly strong, but not weak either. Real Madrid has the advantage of playing at home, so they should strive to get a complete victory and make a good start to the new Champions League season. After the training session on the afternoon of the 12th, Mourinho patiently waited for Leong to finish his extra training under Alonso's guidance, and then called Leong to his office again. No one except themselves knows what the 2 of them talked about or discussed in the nearly 1 hour they spent together. However, during the training session on the morning of September 13, Leong once again wore the vest of a substitute player and formed a new midfield combination with Gago and Granero to practice together. Has the negotiation broken down? Similar questions arose in the minds of many Real Madrid first-team players. Cristiano Ronaldo even asked Leong about the specifics during a training break. But Leong remained calm, showing no signs of distress, which reassured Ronaldo. Alonso didn't ask any more questions until the afternoon training session ended, after he had finished the daily extra training with Leong, before saying, "Call me if you need anything." Leong was truly moved that even someone like Brother Long, who didn't want to get involved in the locker room drama, had spoken up. But there really wasn't any problem between him and Mourinho. On the contrary, the reason he spent more time practicing and rehearsing with Gago and the others today was actually because he himself took the initiative to ask Mourinho for it. The reason is simple: he wants to further hone his ball control and playmaking abilities. Compared to the all-around playmaker Alonso, Gago and Granero, who currently have more shortcomings in various aspects, are naturally better training partners for Leong. Leong explained the reasons to Alonso in detail, and Alonso looked at him strangely after listening. "I can understand it, but it just sounds so strange. Because I'm so strong, my apprentices find training with me too easy, so they want to learn from me and get answers to their questions while also practicing with other midfielders." That makes perfect sense. It's unknown whether Gago and Granero will feel the urge to beat up this bastard after they find out Leong's true thoughts. But Alonso himself seemed to be feeling somewhat comfortable. "Hey, don't just focus on saying nice things all day long. As long as you are confident in your own mind, that's enough. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to contact me. You need to put your mind to learning how to organize the attack and constantly review the game, but you can't neglect your defensive skills either." After giving Leong a few more words of advice, Alonso left the training base satisfied. The next 2 days of training were basically the same. When Leong is paired with Gago, Granero, or even Canales, he gets plenty of opportunities to receive the ball and orchestrate attacks. These players clearly cannot do what Alonso does: play as a lone defensive midfielder and handle both organization and defense. If you lack the ability, you'll naturally need your teammates to help share some of the organizational burden. Liang wasn't greedy and was quite satisfied with his current position as an organizational assistant. Assist in organizing passes, protecting and transferring the ball, and supporting the center-backs in breaking the opponent's high-pressure pressing. He mainly practices these few skills, and now he can't do things like cleaning up dirty balls or even dribbling and advancing the ball. Therefore, Liang's performance remained as stable as before. Because he won't easily try out organizational skills he hasn't even started learning yet. And add some minor adjustments to the main role of the defensive team. For example, assisting the playmaker in organizing possession and facilitating ball transfers will not affect the good relationship between Liang and other Real Madrid midfielders. He still doesn't want possession of the ball. A defensive midfield partner who doesn't demand the ball much, always cleans up your messes, and allows you to make runs or even attack forward. Do you want him? Let alone Gago and Granero, even after Mourinho tentatively used Alonso, Liang, and Khedira in a training match as a trio in the first team. Khedira's gaze towards Liang was strange. It only takes one practice match to go from being slightly wary to gradually showing friendliness. Although my brother likes to make forward runs and covers a large area, he doesn't have any outstanding role. He has good positioning awareness, but he often steals the positions and opportunities from the forwards. But when he has two defensive midfielders behind him to cover for him, allowing him to fully focus on attacking runs and defensive sweeps, his box-to-box attributes are positively amplified. It can be said that in this training match with Liang and Alonso, Khedira finally delivered his best performance since joining Real Madrid. So much so that Mourinho had to start to doubt his judgment in the midfield. With a simple positional advantage, Khedira, who wasn't forced to stay in the backfield, actually helped his team a great deal on both offense and defense. Although his shooting technique isn't great, he always manages to get into the right position and help other attacking players disrupt the opponent's defense. His defensive skills are average, but with his wide area coverage and sweeping attacks, Liang can devote more energy to positioning and interception. Alonso was also relaxed, with Khedira making forward runs in front and Liang providing defensive cover behind, allowing him to comfortably organize attacks and assist Liang in defense. It was as if a completely new tactical door had been opened. Mourinho and Karanka had to work overtime at the training ground with the rest of the coaching staff on the eve of the Champions League match. The Real Madrid stars looked at Liang with increasing friendliness and curiosity. This isn't just a simple defensive midfielder, he's a complete all-rounder, winning over both his competitors and the head coach. That's amazing, truly amazing. Chapter 19: A story destined for tragedy. On the afternoon of September 14, 2010, Mourinho generously released the 18-man starting lineup at the pre-match press conference for Real Madrid's first Champions League group stage match of the new season. Because Albiol is still recovering from injury and Pepe has just returned from injury, Mourinho has included Garay, who has not yet been used in the league, in the squad as a precaution. This was the only thing that surprised the reporters at the scene. The other Real Madrid first-team players selected for the Champions League squad were basically in line with the predictions made by Spanish media before the match. Leaving aside stars like Cristiano Ronaldo, Di Maria, Alonso, and Ramos who are almost guaranteed to start. The reporters on site were most eager to confirm whether Liang, who had recently received ample opportunities in the league, would continue to start. There's no way around it, after 2 league matches, Liang has indeed become the talk of the town in Spanish football recently. In the words of the fans, when you see a player with a sunny and handsome face like Kaká, but actually doing the tough work of Gattuso, playing for Real Madrid at the age of 19 and doing quite well, it's really hard not to be curious and interested in him. Even though Real Madrid's official Twitter account had already released Liang's growth experience and his performance in Real Madrid's youth teams at various levels. But fans from all walks of life are still not satisfied. They were eager to see something different from Liang, this emerging, alternative genius. Therefore, reporters tried their best to ask Mourinho all sorts of questions about Liang at the pre-match press conference. Mourinho flashed his signature smile, and his response to the reporters was always the same. No comment. This is Mourinho's own idea, and also Liang's personal idea. Real Madrid naturally prioritized respecting the players' opinions in this regard. Liang didn't want to deal with the media too early, and Mourinho also disliked the media's excessive attention to disturb his players' private lives. On this point, Mourinho and Liang once again reached a tacit agreement. So no matter how the reporters tried to subtly probe, Mourinho smiled and refused one question after another related to Liang. Until a Chinese journalist raised his hand and was granted the right to ask a question. Mr. Mourinho, what role does Liang currently play in Real Madrid's first team? What are your thoughts or assessments on his future development? Do you think Liang has a chance to secure a starting position at Real Madrid in the future? The reporter, who was wearing a badge that read "Social Worker" from a Chinese newspaper, asked 3 questions in one go. Mourinho hesitated for a moment, but in the end, perhaps out of consideration for Liang, he slowly answered the 3 questions that were likely to cause controversy. You can all see his role. Liang is currently a midfield defender. He needs to take on more defensive responsibilities in the backfield to stop the opponent's advance. As for his development, I think he still has a lot of room for improvement. He is very eager to learn and very smart. He always wants to learn more from the game and training. As for the last one, Nami, perhaps you should interview Liang yourself in the future. He is a confident young man. You probably won't get the answer you want from me, but you can from him. Mourinho's answer was perfectly reasonable, and he even made a humorous joke at the end. But to his and many other reporters' surprise, the Chinese reporter who asked the question did not ultimately appear very happy. Instead, she smiled awkwardly and sat back down. Mourinho felt something was off, but the little incident was over in no time. He quickly forgot about it after finishing his work at the pre-match press conference. Push the time back a few hours. After the major sports forums in China updated the information about Real Madrid's pre-Champions League press conference. Chinese fans were not unanimously happy about Liang's inclusion in Real Madrid's starting lineup or Mourinho's praise of him. Just like when they learned that Liang would be starting for Real Madrid's first team a while ago, they quickly split into several camps and engaged in a fierce, verbal battle. And it all started with a Weibo post that Liang made in February of this year. Many people are innocent, whether they are victims or scapegoats. They may be people who care about the big picture, and even if they are disgusting, they want to mend this rotten ship and keep it sailing. But for me, the saddest thing is that these innocent people have far underestimated the greed and shamelessness of those in high positions. If the true revival of this movement in the country requires someone to make a sufficiently tragic sacrifice, then I am willing to pay that price today. This seemingly mysterious Weibo post didn't actually attract much attention at the time. But the day after Liang posted this on Weibo, a reporter revealed that Liang firmly refused the national team's call-up and was unwilling to return to play in the East Asian Cup held in Tokyo at the time, which caused an uproar in the domestic media. As one of the few young players in China who received youth training at Real Madrid at the time, Liang joined the Chinese national youth team early on. He is not only the captain of the national youth team, but also a rising star on whom fans across the country place high hopes. Liang has unsurprisingly become the darling of Chinese fans. Countless people are hoping that he can be promoted to the Chinese national team after he comes of age and help the Chinese team successfully enter the World Cup finals once again. But all these beautiful hopes were completely shattered on February 1, 2010. After posting that fierce and resolute Weibo update, Liang directly announced his permanent withdrawal from all levels of the Chinese national team. Without any reason or further explanation, a cold announcement completely severed any possibility between Liang and the Chinese national team. In those days, domestic sports reporters broke all sorts of stories. Some say that Liang acted like a big shot and, after being reprimanded by the team leader, chose to withdraw from the national youth team in a fit of anger. Some say that one of the national youth team coaches asked Liang's teammate and friend for favors, and Liang made a scene after discovering this. There is also a rumor that Liang was directly asked for an appearance fee by a football association manager who has the right to select players. Liang immediately launched into a tirade against the other party, resulting in his dismissal. Amidst the various speculations, no one knows why Liang chose such a violent way to announce that he would no longer play for the Chinese national team. At the time, only a small number of fans clearly expressed their understanding of Liang. Most fans cannot understand or accept Liang's decision to retire from the national team. Thus, the title of traitor gradually fell on Liang's head. Even after Liang was loaned to Real Betis, many Chinese fans still felt unsatisfied. They simply didn't want to wish Liang well, who was gradually making a name for himself at Real Betis at that time. Similarly, Even now, more and more Chinese fans have softened their attitudes towards Liang because he has established himself in Real Madrid's first team. However, there is still a group of heartbroken fans who cannot forgive. The more popular Liang is in Spanish football, the more controversy he generates in China. However, Liang himself doesn't say anything, and the top officials of the Chinese Football Association also remain silent. Thus, the shrouded, official announcement of withdrawal from the team became a sad story for countless Chinese football fans. As for Liang, who traveled back for more than 10 years in the future, he had hesitated, struggled, joined without hesitation, and now he has withdrawn in utter despair. The knife didn't land on him, but he couldn't ignore what had happened to his teammates. Therefore, he chose the most forceful way to break with the enemy. This is a story destined to be a tragedy from the very beginning. Liang, who has no ties or interests with the domestic football scene, does not need to compromise. His refusal to compromise meant that he was destined to have serious conflicts with some fools sooner or later. If he doesn't back down, he'll inevitably end up being ostracized and expelled. But as Liang himself said, the true revival of domestic football requires someone to make a sufficiently tragic sacrifice. He's willing to pay that price. He didn't turn back. I don't regret it. The national team selection, well, I was actually planning to explain that later, but I thought about it again, and decided to just gloss over it for now. For those interested in national team content, you can check out the Foodie's previous football novel. I've learned my lesson and it's too late to write about the national team in this book. Sorry. Chapter 20 The Hard-Boiled Midfield Trio. On the evening of September 15th, in the star-studded Bernabeu Stadium, players from both teams, having finished their warm-up, jogged back to the player tunnel to prepare for their final pep talk and preparations before the match. Liang surprised many outside media outlets, but his starting position was also expected by many Real Madrid fans. The Western media felt that Mourinho was being too bold. Liang performed very well in the first 2 rounds of the league. He seems to be the kind of player who is calm and collected. But the Champions League is the Champions League after all. Starting a 19-year-old player with almost no experience in top-level competitions as a defensive midfielder in the Champions League is a mistake. It can only be said that the madman is indeed a madman. His moves are completely unconventional, and he is truly not afraid to add more burdens to Liang. A more normal approach would be to bench Liang in the Champions League group stage. In the first 2 or 3 games, he got about 20 to 30 minutes of playing time in each game. Once Liang is familiar with the rhythm and pressure of the Champions League, we'll observe his performance as a substitute and then decide whether to start him in the last 3 rounds. This is at least the development model most coaches use to nurture the young players they value. A top-tier talent like Rooney at 18 years old, who started in his Champions League debut and even scored a hat-trick, is a rare find. Liang seems to be doing well so far, and his development prospects are also very good. However, compared to top-tier geniuses like Liu Xiaopeng back in the day, they are simply not in the same league. Real Madrid fans, however, have a different opinion from the Spanish media. After all, they are more familiar with the characteristics of the players in their own team, especially after watching the first 2 rounds of the new season. Compared to Gago, who is willing to defend but lacks the physical attributes, and Khedira, who has the physical attributes but always gets out of position when making forward runs, this is a better option. Currently, Alonso's best defensive midfield partner is indeed Liang. Therefore, Mourinho's choice to start Liang was basically expected by most Real Madrid fans. As for match experience and pressure, Mourinho dared to start Liang, which means he must have enough confidence in Liang. What else can these fans say? Just firmly support the little lion who came from Castile, and that's all. However, there is one thing that neither the media nor Real Madrid fans can understand. That is, in the starting 11 that Real Madrid submitted before the match, besides Liang and Alonso, there was also Khedira's name, who did not perform well in the last league match. Could it be that Liang and Khedira will partner in the double pivot midfield for this match, and Alonso will be moved forward? Filled with confusion and doubt, Real Madrid fans can only hope that the match will start as soon as possible, and then they will be able to figure out what Mourinho is up to. At 8:40 p.m., amidst a huge cheer from the Bernabeu crowd, players from Real Madrid and Ajax followed the referee team onto the pitch. Liang was still standing behind Alonso, appearing only briefly in the live broadcast camera. But that remarkably calm and composed gaze instantly put countless Real Madrid fans at ease. The live stream camera focused on Liang, whose face was as calm as a still lake. There was no sign of nervousness on Liang's face, his composure was truly remarkable. In the ESPN Singapore studio, commentator Zhang Junjing was amazed by Liang's composure during today's match. Zhang Jun has been paying attention to Liang, a young player who was playing in the Spanish second division at the beginning of the year and caused a media storm in China, but has now become an important player in Real Madrid's first team. Many Chinese players who went to Europe to play in recent years have either returned home or lost their opportunities. Many domestic fans have subconsciously started paying more attention to the young players who are still training in Europe. Liang, a talented young player, who had no connection to domestic football but stood out in Real Madrid's youth academy and was promoted to Castilla based solely on his own strength. It is unique and unparalleled. Zhang Jun still regrets Liang's tragic, personal decision made at the beginning of the year. It can be said that public opinion in China was very unfriendly to Liang at that time. There are many voices of support, but there are also many voices of condemnation and even angry criticism. To put it bluntly, judging from the public opinion at the time, if Liang couldn't make it in Europe, his return to China would basically be equivalent to retirement. Because domestic clubs dare not sign contracts with him. Even though his skills are among the best in the country, no team dares to take him. Despite this pressure, Liang managed to establish himself in the Spanish second division and eventually secured a starting position for Real Betis, helping the team achieve promotion to the first division. At that time, Zhang Jun was genuinely happy for Liang. If they're not coming back, then they're not coming back. Zhang Jun was aware of the quagmire-like state of football in China. These industry insiders usually don't say much, but they can only silently wish that the brave and resolute Liang will embark on a smooth career path. But he never expected that a few months later, he would be able to commentate on Liang's Champions League matches representing Real Madrid. Who could have imagined this? Liang's public image in China improved rapidly after he was promoted to Real Madrid's first team. The angry fan base remains large, but compared to that, there are even more domestic fans supporting Liang. After a moment of reflection, Zhang Jun looked at the players from both teams who had lined up to shake hands and greet each other, and quickly introduced the starting lineups of the two teams to the audience. Mourinho fielded a more attacking 4-3-3 formation for Real Madrid today. Goalkeeper Casillas. The back line, from left to right, consists of Marcelo, Pepe, Carvalho, and Arbeloa. In midfield, Liang and Alonso surprisingly continued to partner as a double pivot, while Khedira, who was speculated by the media before the match to be a deep-lying midfielder to partner with Liang, appeared in the central midfield position. Up front, Ronaldo is on the left, Di Maria on the right, Higuaín is the center forward, and Benzema and new signing Ozil are on the bench. As Zhang Jun provided commentary, the players from both sides gradually moved to their respective positions after their captains had chosen their sides. Liang and Khedira were not as irreconcilable as outsiders imagined. On the contrary, at this moment they were almost touching heads, gesturing and communicating actively while covering their mouths, showing no signs of the direct rivalry that the media had portrayed them as. Mourinho stood on the sidelines, intently watching his newly formed midfield trio. To be honest, during the preseason training camp, he never imagined that he would field such a starting midfield combination. But there was no way around it. When they played training matches before, the trio together brought him and the entire Real Madrid coaching staff a great sense of surprise. So much so that he couldn't resist the temptation to use this midfield combination directly, and after 2 training sessions, he put a certain dead man who was originally brought in as a starter on the bench. With a talented attacking midfielder, Real Madrid's attack could indeed be much smoother and more fluid. But Mourinho couldn't care less about the attacking midfielder's ideas than making the entire midfield stronger and more balanced on both ends of the pitch. He believes he has found the right key to compete with Barcelona in the new season. This Champions League group stage match was a very suitable tactical rehearsal. He was eager to see if the new Real Madrid midfield trio he had unintentionally created, which Liang jokingly called the tough trio, could suppress Ajax's 5-man midfield. If the 3 of them really do it, then Mourinho will have at least a 70% chance of success. He only needs 2 seasons, just 2 seasons, until this new midfield combination is well integrated, and then he can dominate La Liga and Europe. Let's go back to the era when Real Madrid dominated. Chapter 21 Mourinho's Real Madrid, setting sail. Liang had no idea that Mourinho would have such high expectations for their newly formed midfield trio. His goals remain very pragmatic. That is to have a stable performance in his first Champions League match. For him, Real Madrid winning would be the best outcome. He wanted to get his first Champions League victory as soon as possible and also wanted to see how many points the system would give him for winning a Champions League match. So he's satisfied with the result of winning, and whether it's a small victory or a big one depends on whether the forwards in the front line have their shooting boots on today. As for not being able to win, well, Liang didn't dare to imagine such a scene. After all, the current Ajax team has been languishing in the Dutch league for a long time and is no longer the magnificent team that once swept across Europe. Compared to Real Madrid, who were ridiculed as the 16th place team by major clubs in previous years, but still managed to play in the Champions League every year. Ajax hasn't played in the Champions League for 4 whole seasons. Their last appearance in the Champions League group stage was in the 2005-06 season. Ajax successfully reached the Champions League round of 16, but lost to Mancini's Inter Milan in the round of 16. Most of the key players from that Gia family team have now transferred to other teams. In other words, Real Madrid, with its extensive Champions League experience, is now facing a Champions League newcomer. If they don't get off to a winning start, not only will the fans riot, but the Real Madrid stars probably won't be able to forgive themselves either. So Liang really didn't have any psychological burden. If the sky fell, there were tall guys to hold it up. He had no reason to be nervous about playing against a group of Dutch Eredivisie players. He himself wasn't nervous, but his partner Alonso still took care of him at the beginning of the match. Try to pass the ball to Liang as little as possible, stay in the backfield and assist Liang in defense, and call Khedira back to help you increase the passing lanes to get rid of the opponent's pressing. Alonso was a very responsible mentor, and Mourinho didn't think there was anything wrong with starting the game cautiously. Seeing that Liang's performance remained stable and that he did not make any unforced mistakes due to nervousness, Mourinho nodded with greater relief. His trust in Liang was not blind, he had also considered the possibility that Liang might make mistakes due to nervousness in his Champions League debut, as suggested by the media. The backup plan is actually quite simple. If Liang underperforms, Khedira should be moved back to a lower position, and a 3-man midfield should be used to stabilize the midfield defense. If Liang's performance continues to be lackluster, then Gago or a certain attacking midfielder on the bench can start warming up. However, it now seems that this alternative plan is completely unnecessary. Liang's steady performance not only put Mourinho and Kaká at ease, but also gave the other Real Madrid players a boost of confidence. Alonso gradually handed over the responsibility of deep-lying defense to Liang, and began to devote more energy to organizing the transfer of possession in the midfield and backfield, while looking for opportunities to send long passes forward. Marcelo's forward runs were more confident, and Carvalho also felt more secure, allowing him to organize the defense more calmly, much to the amazement of Pepe, who had just recovered from injury. Ramos was originally supposed to start alongside Carvalho today. However, after the last training session this morning, Ramos felt some discomfort in his calf muscles, so Pepe returned to the starting lineup immediately upon his return. He hadn't worked with Liang in a formal match before, but seeing his teammates around him all looking like they trusted Liang, Master Pepe subconsciously felt more at ease. At this moment, the one who was in the most good mood on the field was naturally Khedira. This week has been incredibly eventful for Facebro. He was substituted at halftime in the first game of the league, ruining his debut, not to mention that Liang, who was his competitor at the time, performed very well. During training, Liang received praise from most of his teammates and coaches, and Khedira felt at that time that he might have to seriously consider a change in style. But after a training session that Mourinho came up with on a whim and was highly experimental, Khedira quickly ushered in his spring again. No longer needing to constantly pay attention to defensive positioning, they can take on their favorite forward runs, making the most of their time without worrying about leaving no one to clean up their mess. This feeling is simply, that's so cool. Khedira, dribbling the ball and making free runs in midfield, instantly rediscovered his Stuttgart form. Mourinho asked him to increase his coverage and sweeping in the midfield and attack, and to control the number of shots he takes in each game. That's no problem. After being reprimanded and substituted in a disheveled manner at halftime, Khedira showed no dissatisfaction whatsoever with the tactical demands Mourinho was now making of him. With his defensive burden reduced in the new tactical system, Khedira, eager to prove himself, quickly delivered a performance that surprised Real Madrid fans. Khedira's ability to advance is not top-notch, but it's sufficient. His passing ability is not top-notch, but it's sufficient. His shooting is not great, but he doesn't shoot recklessly anymore. More importantly, this guy has plenty of stamina. He truly embodied the spirit of being present everywhere, capable of handling any task, cooperating with teammates, and setting the pace. Perhaps his technique is still a bit rough, but it doesn't matter. Real Madrid's attacking players in the front line are all very skilled and refined, so they don't need him to dribble and tear apart the defense. His successful execution of linking up attacks and supporting the forwards was already quite remarkable. On the defensive end, his wide-range sweeping attacks can effectively slow down the opponent's counterattack speed. He's not an efficient stealing machine, and his recovery speed isn't fast either. A week ago, this would have been a fatal flaw on the defensive end. But now, it doesn't matter anymore. Because after he completes his sweeping task, the opposing attacking players who slip through will be dealt with by the two defensive midfielders, Leon and Xabi Alonso. Khedira is essentially the first layer of filter in Real Madrid's midfield defense. It would be great to be able to stop the opponent's attack from the very beginning, but it's not fatal if you can't. Leon provided frontal interception and sweeping pursuit from behind. Alonso filled in the gaps. The trio together formed a well-organized and highly efficient midfield meat grinder. This is why Leon used to joke that the three of them together could be called the hardcore trio. Is it hard? Looking at all the top clubs in Europe, once they master this tactic, their defense is indeed very tough. The defensive lines are layered, possess strong countermeasure capabilities, are highly mobile, and feature ground interception and high-altitude interception capabilities. It has everything. While their attacking style is a bit rough, with Alonso, a master of long passes and precise playmaking, it doesn't hinder Real Madrid from playing their efficient counter-attacking game at all. It remains to be seen how well Ajax will perform against Barcelona's midfield, but they couldn't hold on for more than half an hour. Holy crap. Real Madrid's new midfield combination relies on Khedira's attacks and Alonso's long passes to create chances in attack. Unfortunately, Cristiano Ronaldo and Di Maria on the wings are both top-tier stars with incredible speed and all-around skills. Once he gets going, he can easily cause chaos and disarray in Ajax's backfield. When Ajax finally managed to launch a counter-attack and get past Khedira's relentless pace to advance through midfield, they were met with another scramble by Real Madrid's two defensive midfielders. Leon, in particular, made all the Ajax players grit their teeth in hatred. The 19-year-old defensive midfielder, relying on his good physique, was daring and didn't know his own strength when he attacked. You think you're so great just because you have a good jump and strong legs? You think you can win the header contest and then try to play a head-to-head, foot-to-foot game with me? Screw you, I'm not playing anymore. Leon made 4 successful one-on-one tackles in the first 30 minutes of the first half, directly breaking down Ajax's midfield. Leon is not afraid of pain or injury, he's tough enough. But they are. Ajax's already sporadic counterattacks were completely silenced due to their instinctive hesitation. Real Madrid naturally seized the opportunity to intensify their attack. However, it was neither Cristiano Ronaldo nor Di Maria, who had performed outstandingly earlier, who ultimately broke through Ajax's defense in the first half. Instead, he played defensively for 36 minutes, and finally, with a brilliant offside trap, he broke through the defense and scored a one-on-one goal against Higuaín. Ronaldo's through ball. A beautiful offside run. Higuaín, chip shot. Goal. In the 36th minute of the first half, Real Madrid finally broke through Ajax's defense. This new Real Madrid team is truly impressive. Jean-June was somewhat excited. He saw a Real Madrid team that was more balanced in attack and defense than last season, and was also more reassuring. We also saw the important role Leon played in Mourinho's tactical changes. At that moment, Leon, who was smiling and high-fiving Khedira and Alonso in celebration, once again attracted the attention of the live broadcast camera. Or rather, the three of them together attracted the camera's attention. The show features Xabi Alonso, a playmaker at his peak, Sami Khedira, a box-to-box midfielder gradually reaching his peak, and Leong, a young but composed tackling machine. This was the first time Real Madrid fielded this midfield combination this season, but its defensive efficiency and offensive power were remarkably outstanding. Perhaps this is the final version of the key to victory that Mourinho painstakingly experimented with. Seeing Mourinho and Kaká excitedly hugging each other, almost all Real Madrid fans had the same thought flash through their minds. Mourinho's Real Madrid has truly set sail. Chapter 22. Double the rewards. Playing in the Champions League is the right way to get rich. After breaking the deadlock, Real Madrid basically maintained control of the game. It's not necessary to hold on to possession tightly. Real Madrid readily gave Ajax the opportunity to continue their attack. This put the Ajax players and coaches in an awkward position. They've taken the knife that Real Madrid offered them and are now attacking. Real Madrid's counterattacks are incredibly sharp, they're scared. But if you don't attack, you'll fall behind by another goal. Are you thinking of losing by a small margin if you don't attack? If they dare to play like that, they'll be torn apart by their own fans and media when they go back to the Netherlands. Fortunately, there wasn't much time left in the first half, and Ajax coach De Boer hesitated for a moment before deciding to push his team forward and attack. Even if Real Madrid's counterattacks are strong, they probably won't get many good opportunities to intercept the ball and make long passes in the last few minutes, right? At least Ajax could exploit the midfield space vacated by Real Madrid to launch 2 or 3 attacks. De Boer felt his players wouldn't be satisfied without giving it a try. Well, De Boer has found a plausible reason for himself. Under his instructions, Ajax committed a large number of players to press forward and attack after the restart. Leong and Alonso exchanged a glance, then tacitly separated themselves, allowing Khedira to drop back into his own half and sweep through the middle. It has to be said that Face Bro's stamina is really good. In the first half, he was dribbling forward and covering the midfield to intercept, and he doesn't seem tired at all now. The Ajax players advanced the ball into midfield and saw Khedira, like an ox, struggling to break through and disrupt the defense. They immediately looked disgusted. Although Khedira's interception success rate isn't high, he can disrupt you and annoy you. Wherever you go with the ball, he'll rush up and show his face. Anyone would be annoyed by such a disruptive defender. Leong and Alonso didn't push forward to intercept easily, instead, they locked down the 2 defensive zones on the flanks in front of the 30-meter area. Ajax hesitated for a long time but couldn't find a starting point. If you take the middle route past Khedira, you'll face a pincer attack from Leong and Alonso. Let's go down the flank. We finally got past Real Madrid's 2 fullbacks, but Leong and Alonso are coming to cover on the flanks again. Mourinho was increasingly satisfied and comfortable watching it, while De Boer found it incredibly frustrating. Real Madrid's midfield defensive capabilities far exceeded his pre-match expectations. With such strong horizontal coverage and vertical interception, are you sure the opposing team is Real Madrid in white and not the indomitable Azzurri? Shaking his head, De Boer had already begun to consider his tactics for the second half. But just as he started to let his thoughts wander, the situation on the field suddenly changed. After Ajax's prolonged and fruitless attacking run, they were dispossessed by Leong, who suddenly surged forward. Leong's tackle seized the moment when Ajax midfielder Dazu had just shaken off Khedira's harassment. A clean, precise interception from the flank sent the Dazu player crashing down, but the referee didn't blow the whistle. A very clean and beautiful tackle. Leong got up and passed the ball across to Xabi Alonso. Movista's commentator got excited. And Alonso did not disappoint Real Madrid fans. After controlling the ball and quickly observing the movement of the players in the attacking third, he launched a long, diagonal pass to the right flank. Fast and accurate. Alonso's precise aim hit an open area 3 meters in front of Di Maria, leaving plenty of leeway for the Angel to spread her wings and run at full speed. Meanwhile, Higuaín and Ronaldo were also making very coordinated forward runs in the middle and on the left flanks. While drawing away Ajax's defensive players, they also gave Di Maria a variety of passing options. Oh, wait, we forgot one person. How could we forget our face-cutting king, Khedira, at a time like this? Real Madrid instantly launched a rapid counterattack from 4 points forward, leaving the more than 8,000 Ajax fans at the Bernabeu terrified. De Boer, in his anxiety, yelled at his midfielders to quickly track back. The Ajax players didn't need De Boer to remind them, they put all their effort into tracking back when Alonso sent out a long pass. But firstly, they couldn't outrun Alonso's long passes, and secondly, they couldn't outrun Real Madrid's three forwards in the frontcourt. When it comes to speed, if you can't outrun them, you just can't. Seeing Real Madrid's running forwards widening the gap between them and the rest of the team, Ajax's tracking players were filled with despair. Di Maria easily dribbled past Ajax's veteran defender Uwer and then delivered a low cross from the right edge of the penalty area with the outside of his foot. Higuaín was a bit slower and missed the chance to score this time. But at the far post of Ajax's goal, Ronaldo, arriving at lightning speed, wasn't about to let this easy chance slip away. With a deft push, as the ball crossed the line and hit the net, Ronaldo excitedly turned and called to his teammates to celebrate on the byline. In the 44th minute of the first half, with only 1 minute left before halftime stoppage time, Real Madrid dealt another heavy blow to Ajax. De Boer and his assistant stood frozen on the sidelines, and the Ajax bench was deathly silent. This was in stark contrast to the jubilant Real Madrid bench on the other side. With a 2-0 lead at halftime, Real Madrid had already secured the victory. As long as they remained composed and didn't let their guard down in the second half, Ajax wouldn't be able to cause any trouble. With a winning start to the new Champions League season, Real Madrid has already secured half the victory. Real Madrid fans at the Bernabeu were also celebrating with satisfaction. The match wasn't particularly spectacular, but with a 3-game winning streak on 2 fronts ahead of the new season, even the most discerning Real Madrid fans will be filled with tolerance and anticipation for Mourinho and this new Mourinho-led Real Madrid. When the referee blew the whistle for halftime, a burst of enthusiastic applause erupted at the Bernabeu Stadium. For Real Madrid stars, this is perhaps the greatest recognition they can receive for their hard work. Movie stars commentators even stated that Mourinho has already begun to win the trust of discerning Real Madrid fans. In a harmonious atmosphere, the Real Madrid players walked back to the player tunnel in high spirits, chatting and laughing, and Mourinho did not hold back his praise today. Of course, after showering him with compliments, Mourinho still seriously reiterated his tactical discipline. The truly humorous, witty, and approachable Mourinho only appears after the match has ended. Now, before the final whistle blows, he is a tough leader who demands that his players do everything in their power to win. After this wake-up call, the Real Madrid players were able to shake off some of their arrogance. After observing Mourinho's body language and motivational methods, Leon lowered his head to rest thoughtfully. Mourinho did not make any substitutions during halftime, and Real Madrid did not make any major tactical adjustments in the second half, remaining calm and composed as they continue to contend with Ajax. Real Madrid isn't in a hurry, but Ajax simply can't afford not to. Like fishing, Alonso controlled the pace of the game, constantly luring Ajax players to press forward and engage in attacks. And Leon was the fishing stick that Alonso had prepared on the shore. Whenever an Ajax player tried to get past Real Madrid's midfield quickly, Leon would deliver a powerful blow. After wearing down the Ajax players' morale, Alonso resumed his fishing plans. After several such back and forths, Ajax, unable to withstand the pressure, launched a full-scale, aggressive offensive. Real Madrid made a decisive adjustment, with Khedira dropping back to the right midfield, Alonso on the left, and Leon dropping back in the center. With 3 defensive midfielders positioned, no matter how fierce the attack, we remained steadfast in our defense. In the 73rd minute of the second half, Ajax were exhausted from their attack, and their momentum and stamina dropped. Real Madrid then launched a long pass after intercepting the ball in their own half. Higuaín positioned himself in the center and headed the ball back to the excited Khedira. Meanwhile, Facebro, taking advantage of his opponent's inferior stamina, finally managed to carve out an offensive route in the heart of Ajax. After dribbling past an Ajax fullback who was pressing forward, Khedira wisely passed the ball quickly to Ronaldo, who was already raising his hands frequently on the left wing. It wasn't that he didn't want to continue coaching, but Mourinho on the sidelines was already giving him an unfriendly look. If Khedira wants to continue playing in his preferred position in the next match, he absolutely cannot anger the special one. Knowing his place, Cristiano Ronaldo didn't steal the forward's right to shoot, and Ronaldo, who had possession of the ball in the dangerous area, didn't let his pass go to waste. After a bicycle kick feint, Ronaldo suddenly burst forward and cut inside, then unleashed a powerful low shot from about 25 or 26 meters from the Ajax goal. Liang, who was standing with his hands on his hips gazing into the distance, thought that Ronaldo would send another through ball to Higuain, who was making a forward run, but he didn't expect him to shoot directly. The key point is that this seemingly random and illogical shot actually went in. Liang scratched his head, watching Khedira run towards the celebration site with a silly grin, and felt a pang of envy. That's enough to earn an assist. It's like saying, I could do that too. Once that ball went in, the game was essentially over. Mourinho began to make substitutions, giving several key players from the bench a chance to experience the atmosphere of a Champions League match. Liang didn't get the chance to receive a solo applause from the Real Madrid fans at the Bernabeu next match. He played the entire match. Just as the final whistle blew, the system's reward announcement sounded in his mind. Before he could finish listening, Liang's eyes widened, and his uncontrollable surprise and excitement surged to the top of his head. Compared to La Liga, which he already considered a very rewarding league, a single victory in the Champions League gave him double the winning points. Base points doubled. Points doubled for winning. Indeed, playing in the Champions League is the right way to get rich. Chapter 23 Boss, can you guarantee me a 100% starting position? Liang once again felt the love from the system. Seeing the 30 points he earned, plus a glittering Champions League first win gift pack, he grinned from ear to ear. Alonso thought he was excited and happy about winning his first Champions League match, so he patted him on the head. There will be many more opportunities like this in the future, so don't get too excited. Let's go and thank the fans. Liang didn't argue after hearing this. He slightly suppressed his smile and followed Alonso to his teammates, who were still hugging and high-fiving each other in celebration. After patting Ronaldo's but with practiced ease, tugging a handful of Marcelo's hair, and exchanging fist bumps and hugs with Di Maria, Liang and his teammates stood in a row and applauded in turn to express their gratitude to the stands around the Bernabeu. Everything seemed very harmonious, the team won big, and Real Madrid starting players and fans were all very happy. Some substitute players who didn't get a chance to play might feel a little disappointed. But all they can do after that disappointment is train even harder in order to earn a starting opportunity in the future. There's no use in wallowing in self-pity. At least with Mourinho, if you try, you'll still have a chance, even if you don't get along with him. But if you only complain without putting in the effort, you really won't make it in Real Madrid these days. After thanking the crowd and making a ruckus in the locker room, the Real Madrid players then received some simple physical therapy to relax. After playing today's Champions League match, they only have 2.5 days to rest before heading to Real Sociedad for an away game. The time is too tight, so there is no time to relax. They will report to the training base tomorrow afternoon to begin recovery training. So the Real Madrid players finished their physiotherapy and massage in the locker room and then went home to rest. Liang received a lot of bonus points after today's match, as well as a Champions League first win gift pack, so he has been in a good mood. After getting a ride back to his lodgings with Alonso, Liang didn't rush to open the gift bag. He chose to have a big meal high in carbohydrates and protein, then ignore everything else and get a good night's sleep. Then wait until the recovery training is over the next day before calmly opening packs and drawing cards. But the next afternoon, when he arrived in Valdebebas in his second-hand Ibiza car, Benzema, who happened to be parking at the same time, told him some bad news. That kid's agent has made quite a stir. I heard the chairman called the coach this morning. You know, the coach specifically requested him during the summer transfer window, so if we just drop him now, it definitely won't sit well with the board. After listening to Benzema's general description, Liang first patted Benzema's arm to express his gratitude, and then nodded with a relatively calm expression. The afternoon training session began in a subtle atmosphere from the very beginning. Liang and the other players who played yesterday were divided into one group for recovery training, while the other Real Madrid first-team players were doing normal-intensity training sessions on another training field. The joint training session will take place tomorrow morning, so at least for now, Liang and the attacking midfielder have not yet had any communication. Of course, this morning, the agent of that attacking midfielder made a sarcastic remark during an interview, saying, Real Madrid's youth academy is certainly great, but I don't think that XXX, who cost Real Madrid 18 million, is here to be a substitute. While Kaká is still recovering from injury, my players should get more opportunities to prove themselves. This controversial statement sparked controversy. It was even less likely that Leong and that dead attacking midfielder would have any friendly communication. After a brief appearance, Mourinho handed over training matters to Kaká and went straight to his office. After Leong and his teammates finished their recovery training and had another physiotherapy massage, Kaká called Leong's name from outside the physiotherapy area, signaling him to come out with her. Cristiano Ronaldo seemed a little irritated again, muttering something in a Portuguese dialect that was difficult for most people to understand. Even the usually witty and cheerful Marcelo turned serious, glancing at Leong with pursed lips. The expressions of the remaining Real Madrid first-team players in the physiotherapy room all underwent subtle changes. In the end, it was Alonso who patted Leong on the shoulder. "Go ahead and have a good talk with the coach. Don't be arrogant, but don't compromise on your interests either. Talk it out however you need to. You're not some unsupported youth trainee, do you understand what I mean?" Leong turned his head and looked at Alonso's encouraging gaze. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw that Cristiano Ronaldo, behind Alonso, was still very arrogant, but he also nodded slightly to him. Marcelo leaned in and quickly whispered in Leong's ear, "I'm on your side." After saying that, he winked at Leong. Leong suddenly grinned, expertly tugged at Mapungpung's hair, nodded slightly to Alonso and Ronaldo, and then strode towards Kaká, who was still patiently waiting outside the physiotherapy area. 3 minutes later, Leong and Mourinho, sitting in their bold seats, remained silent. But before Leong could ask anything, Mourinho broke the silence in the office by rubbing his temples and looking worried. "I did have high hopes for him at first, even though his defense wasn't great and his physique wasn't the best. But his insight into the changing game situation and his passing skills made me not want to miss the opportunity to sign him. Real Madrid's midfield needs to be rebuilt, but I didn't come here simply to rebuild Real Madrid. I have to lead this team to the honors it deserves and bring it back to where it belongs." Through Mourinho's slow, half-venting, half-explanatory words, Leong could understand the immense psychological pressure this football maverick was currently under. On top of Real Madrid's already luxurious squad, Mourinho spent tens of millions of euros this summer, personally requesting several young midfielders. At that time, Leong was still working hard to level up at Real Betis and didn't attract Mourinho's attention at all. Therefore, Mourinho made a series of signings based entirely on his idea of rebuilding Real Madrid's midfield. Khedira and the attacking midfielder are the two young midfielders he values most. With one player defending and the other attacking, along with Xabi Alonso, this was Mourinho's original plan for Real Madrid's starting midfield combination for the new season. But later, after some of Real Madrid's first team and players promoted from the reserve team began early training, Mourinho discovered Leong, a hidden gem. He genuinely admires hardworking and down-to-earth young players like Leong. So after Lassana Diarra's unexpected injury, he immediately halted the loan negotiations for Leong and kept him in the first team. The original plan was to let Leong take over the position first, and then let Leong continue to be loaned out to train and grow after Khedira adapted to his new role and Ras Diarra recovered from his injury. To everyone's surprise, Leong proved himself capable by forcing Mourinho and his coaching staff to deviate from the original rebuilding plan and experiment with a new starting formation that seemed to better suit Mourinho's tastes. It seems that the biggest reconstruction problem has been solved. But after the attacking midfielder's agent caused trouble by giving an interview, Mourinho had to face the trouble that he had brought upon himself. First, he personally recruited the person and promised to give him important responsibilities and nurture him well before the purchase. If he were to simply put the person on the bench now, he wouldn't feel comfortable doing so. Secondly, Real Madrid spent a lot of money to buy the player from the Bundesliga, and he only uses that kid as a substitute. That €18 million substitute is really a bit unreasonable. Third, and most importantly, that attacking midfielder has an extremely high ability to pass dangerous balls. His technique and threat on the offensive end are the highest among all the midfielders in Real Madrid's first team. So even this usually decisive and ruthless man found things to be difficult. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given Leong this somewhat apologetic explanation. Leong remained silent for a moment. I can understand him, but, as his teacher Alonso said, he was not arrogant or conceited, but he still fought for his own interests. He would naturally be happy to play as a starter and gain experience at Real Madrid. But now a dead attacking midfielder who has only been a substitute for 3 games is already jumping out to fight for a starting position. It probably won't stop after Lassana Diarra recovers from his injury. So sooner or later he will have to have an open and honest talk with Mourinho about this matter. It's just a matter of time. With that thought in mind, Liang felt relieved and decisively asked Mourinho a question directly. "Boss, can you guarantee me a starting position 100%? Mourinho shook his head almost without thinking. "I can't give it to you. Even if Lassana Diarra is your substitute after he recovers from his injury, you'll still have to rotate with him frequently. In my opinion, you're the highest priority among defensive midfielders, but that doesn't mean you don't need to think about it and should be your first choice. That's because your ability hasn't reached that level yet. Do you understand what I mean?" Mourinho's words were very realistic, and they were the truth for Liang. Liang was not bothered by Mourinho's directness. In fact, he was quite pleased with Mourinho's honesty. To be honest, currently only Cristiano Ronaldo and Xabi Alonso in Real Madrid's squad have received Mourinho's genuine promise of being absolute starters. Because their strength is undeniable, and no one in the market can replace them. Liang has delivered a brilliant and consistent performance under Real Madrid's new system, but he is also aware of his own limitations. Honestly, aside from heading the ball, he doesn't think he's better than Lass Diarra in every aspect right now. If a player in the same position cannot create a significant gap in strength within the team, how can Mourinho be expected to abandon an attacking midfield talent and fully invest in developing his playing time? "You've had 15 appearances. After this season, I will further streamline the midfield, and you'll get even more playing time next season." Looking into Liang's increasingly clear and determined eyes, Mourinho finally gritted his teeth and gave his conditions and promises. If Liang chooses to stay in the winter transfer window, he will likely get about 15 playing opportunities in the remaining games of this season. When playing with a tough midfield trio, Liang needs to take turns playing alongside Lass Diarra to partner with Alonso. When using a more attacking formation, the attacking midfielder will occupy one of the starting midfield positions, and Alonso will occupy the other. Liang, Khedira, and Lassana Diarra will then have to compete for the last starting midfield position. Mourinho's promise to Liang is actually quite sincere. If any other coach were in Real Madrid's head coaching position, they would likely not dare to develop a defensive midfielder who is only 19 years old in this way. Liang was genuinely grateful to Mourinho, but he still resolutely rejected Mourinho's attempt to retain him. He is indeed still young, but at 19, he's no longer a child. Not to mention that he has cheat codes and needs a lot of match wins to increase his points for drawing cards and buying items. At this age when he needs the most match experience to hone his skills, it's impossible for him to simply rotate as a player for 1 or 2 seasons and patiently wait for the so-called right opportunity to appear. Even if he plays for Real Madrid, it won't work. "You really can't wait any longer? Even if I manage to get that kid to rack up stats against weak teams this year and raise his transfer fee, and then sell him next summer to make room for you, is that still not enough?" Mourinho was getting anxious. He told Liang the truth, but he didn't want Liang to run away from Real Madrid. On the contrary, he valued Liang's talent, potential, and qualities more. He just needs Liang to wait patiently for a year, until he can straighten out the Real Madrid dressing room and get rid of the restless players. Then Liang will naturally be able to gradually rise to the top and secure a starting position. He really can't make any promises right now. After hearing Mourinho's honest words, Liang became even more clear-headed. "Boss, you still stand by what you said before, right? Will you try your best to choose a club that best suits me for a loan during the winter transfer window?" Seeing that Liang was unyielding and determined, Mourinho had no choice but to sigh and wave his hand. "Don't worry about that. I'll put in a good word with the management. As long as the club you choose isn't too outrageous and they genuinely want to bring you in, there won't be any problem." Liang got the answer he wanted, and his mood was no longer as complicated as before. Instead, he felt a sense of relief, as if he had escaped from the vortex. "I really enjoy working with you, boss, but right now I do need a real commitment to a starting position and more playing time, whether it's next summer or the summer after. If you feel that my ability meets your top priority requirements, then I will still return to Madrid. But before that, I hope you can give me ample opportunities to gain experience outside the country. I have confidence in myself, and you can have even more confidence in me." Liang left behind his honest words and thoughts, and walked out of the office door step by step under Mourinho's slightly melancholy gaze. His steps were firm, and he never looked back. 2 days later, Liang, sitting on the bench, calmly watched the La Liga third-round match between Real Madrid and Real Sociedad. But even though he was a substitute, a certain dead attacking midfielder did not get a chance to start. Gago started alongside Alonso in a double pivot midfield role, while Khedira remained in the starting central midfield position. Mourinho has made his choice, but he also wants the dead attacking midfielder and his agent to know. No one can coerce a madman through public opinion, even if he is in the wrong this time. As an internal punishment, the dead attacking midfielder was even left out of the 18-man squad for this round of the league. The recent controversy surrounding his and Liang's starting position seems to have gradually subsided thanks to Mourinho's strong handling of the situation. At least for now, things have calmed down. Such turmoil always occurs within wealthy families. Sometimes it comes on quickly and lasts a long time, with a huge impact, other times it comes and goes quickly. And amidst this uproar, only a very small number of people know about it. Liang's time with Real Madrid's first team is drawing to a close. 2 chapters combined into one, so the turning point chapter is released all at once. Some readers might find this chapter unpleasant, but those familiar with Real Madrid's signings and midfield redundancy that season should understand. The protagonist of this book is not a talented striker, he is a defensive midfielder, and a defensive midfielder whose only basic talent is defensive skills. Growth isn't something that happens overnight, after all, we don't need to add a little extra effort. We need to slowly extract talent fragments, increase the talent cap, and then work hard to increase the ability value. Therefore, the tone of the book is set from the beginning, the little lion is destined to grow slowly through the tempering of a lot of competitions. Speaking of ample playing opportunities, given that Real Madrid had a surplus of midfielders in the 2010-11 season, and the main players' abilities were not yet sufficient to transcend a specific system and allow Mourinho to go all out in developing them, the only option left was to loan them out. Liang is a down-to-earth, clear-headed player who is neither arrogant nor overly humble. He was prepared from the beginning to leave Real Madrid and try his luck at Betis, so now that he can't get a starting position from the head coach, in order to ensure his smooth development and gain extra points, he still chooses to be loaned out to find a club that can promise him a starting position. Isn't that reasonable? I'm saying all this just to explain and clarify things first. This is the reasonable plot that I deduced and could write, and it was set up in the outline long ago. There is no strange subjective idea of deliberately slowing down the pace or torturing the protagonist. A sincere explanation, even a foodie like me accepts any reasonable criticism. Above. Chapter 24 sees this precious time, let's get to work. Liang sat on the bench for the entire match in the third round of La Liga between Real Madrid and Real Sociedad. Without his defensive presence in the backfield, Real Madrid were repeatedly outmaneuvered by Real Sociedad, and their defense finally crumbled in the 62nd minute of the second half, resulting in a goal conceded. But with Real Madrid already having scored 3 goals and then adding a fourth 6 minutes before the final whistle, this one goal seemed insignificant. For the recently active Spanish media, Liang's substitution and Real Madrid's continued winning streak are a great gimmick. Even if they can no longer stir up discord among the Real Madrid players, after polishing the reports, they won't have to worry about the sales of newspapers and magazines recently. In the match where Liang was absent from the starting lineup, Alonso tracked back more often, Real Madrid's midfield interception statistics dropped significantly, and Khedira's performance quickly declined from excellent in both attack and defense to mediocre. These issues were deliberately ignored by the media in the midst of victory. Perhaps most Real Madrid fans can still see where the problem lies. But at this moment, they prefer to indulge in the beautiful fantasy that attack wins the game and also wins the victory. After all, Real Madrid has achieved 4 consecutive wins in 2 competitions since the start of the season, and in this round of league, they even defeated Real Sociedad 4-1. Few Real Madrid fans would deny Liang's role in Real Madrid's previous winning matches. During that period, Real Madrid played steadily and reassuringly whenever Liang was on the field, which was a very positive change. But if Real Madrid fans really had to make a choice, they would rather win every game by scoring 4-1 or even 4-2. A clean sheet and a comfortable victory is great, but it's not Real Madrid's tradition. Real Madrid's tradition is to win beautifully and spectacularly. Otherwise, Capello wouldn't have led Real Madrid to 2 La Liga titles, only to be dismissed after winning both titles. Therefore, it's not that they didn't know that Liang's starting position would make it easier and more stable for Real Madrid to win. There were also media outlets and Real Madrid fans who spoke out in support of Liang. But with more media outlets and fans calling on Mourinho to lead Real Madrid to play more attractive football. Indeed, not many people care why a lucky kid, who had only played 3 games for Real Madrid suddenly became a substitute. People are more concerned about Ronaldo's brilliant performance of scoring twice once again, while Alonso seems to have taken on the defensive responsibilities very well, handling both offense and defense. Marcelo's overlapping runs and wing play are becoming increasingly sharp, while Di Maria's crosses and cut-in shots are getting more and more potent. Liang has not been forgotten by Real Madrid fans, but clearly, he has not received much attention in the media either. Fortunately, he was mentally prepared and would not experience significant emotional ups and downs as a result. Mourinho's intention in benching him for 1 game was not, as some unscrupulous media outlets have reported, to make room for the dead attacking midfielder. I just wanted to give him a good rest after he played 3 rounds in a row, so he can start again in the next round against La Liga powerhouse Espanyol. However, Liang himself was also aware that with Lassana Diarra, who could recover from his injury at any time in late September, returning to the team for training, things would be very difficult. He will be loaned out during the winter transfer window, and he certainly won't get as many starting opportunities as he has during this period. Instead of wasting energy paying attention to external opinions, fans should focus on the changing views of the fans. It would be better to make the most of this last period of time at Real Madrid, when you can train and play with a host of superstars, and improve your skills as much as possible. Liang has always had a strong sense of crisis and urgency. If he had never played for Real Madrid's first team before, he could be content to slowly develop at Real Betis. Now he's thinking that it would be best to join a big club and become a key player so that he can improve his skills more quickly. Leaving aside the huge skill gap between teammates training together, there is a huge gap between elite clubs and small clubs in terms of training quality and infrastructure alone. Fortunately, there are still more than 3 months before the winter transfer window opens, giving him ample time to conduct research and analysis on the major clubs in Europe. During this period, he cannot waste the time when he cannot play a match. Time to grind some stats. Liang made up his mind, and after returning home on the evening of September 18, he directly opened the corresponding gift pack he had received for his first Champions League victory in the system panel. After the familiar golden light flashed, all that appeared before Liang this time was a single item and a talent fragment card, less than the items he received from the La Liga first win gift pack last time. But Liang showed no dissatisfaction whatsoever. Because this time he opened a gold-level item worth 500 system points. Stamina Recovery Potion, Advanced, 10 uses remaining. Aside from a simple line of text describing it, this gold-level Advanced Stamina Recovery Potion offers no further usage tips. But for Liang, who had already used many low-level stamina recovery potions for free in the system, this was not a problem. He used his mind to touch the prop lightly. Sure enough, just like the system's free low-level stamina recovery potion, which has now been upgraded to intermediate level, the potion bottle displays the words, "Confirm use." Liang glanced at the remaining useful times screen and decisively said, "No," in his mind. A gold-level stamina recovery potion. It can only be used 10 times with 500 points of stamina, and each use costs 50 points. It's really too extravagant. Compared to the free stamina recovery potions provided by the system, which can only be used once every 10 days, these gold-level advanced stamina recovery potions only have a limit on the number of uses, but no time limit. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why it's worth 500 points. Imagine if a player competing in the Premier League had a bottle of this energy booster that could last for 10 uses during the grueling winter schedule, used once a week, and after 70 days he would definitely be hailed as an Iron Man by the English media. Liang put the advanced stamina recovery potion back into the item box with satisfaction. After thinking for a moment, he opened the other silver-level talent fragment card that he had obtained. Cazorla 18-19 Season Ball Control Talent Fragment Card, Talent Value, 88, Max Value 100, Current Ball Control Ability Value of the host is 72. Looking at the picture of Cazorla wearing a Villarreal jersey on the talent fragment card, Liang immediately pictured Liu Bei, played by Yu Hui, in his mind. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. My second brother is invincible. When Cazorla's career was ruined by injuries, Arsenal fans must have felt something similar. With cards, we'll compete for the championship, without cards, we'll fight for fourth place, if cards are withdrawn, our factory collapses. Similar jokes were rampant in the Arsenal forum back then. Leon once lamented Cazorla's injury and had a direct understanding of his ability. His ball control and ball movement were absolutely top-notch in the football world. Looking at his current ball control ability, which barely meets the La Liga passing grade, Leon can only say that he still has a lot of room for improvement. After taking stock of his gains, Leon returned to the system panel homepage. Looking at the several ability values whose limits have been raised, he instantly felt at ease. We've reached the limit of improvement, now we have plenty of time to train, and we even have advanced physical enhancement drugs that can quickly restore our physical strength anytime, anywhere. Putting everything else aside, with the addition of the intermediate-level stamina recovery potion that he could get for free every 10 days, Leon could say that he had no worries about stamina recovery for nearly 3 months. So what excuse or reason is there not to fight for a bright future for yourself? Liver surgery.